Have you ever noticed how much noise fills our lives these days? Not just the actual sounds around us, but the constant buzz of notifications, the endless scroll of social media updates, the pressure to always be connected and reacting to what everyone else is doing. It's like we're living in a crowded room where everyone is talking at once, and after a while, it becomes impossible to hear our own thoughts. This social noise doesn't just distract us, it slowly erodes our ability to focus, to think clearly, and to remember what truly matters to us. It pulls us away from our deeper purpose and leaves us feeling scattered, anxious, and disconnected from our own vision. But what if there was a way to cut through that noise? What if you could reclaim your mental space and turn all that chaos into clarity, intention, and unshakable vision? This is where the ancient wisdom of Stoicism comes in, a philosophy that has guided thinkers, leaders, and everyday people for centuries toward a life of inner quiet and purposeful action. The Stoics understood something profound about human nature, that we cannot control the external world, but we can always choose how we respond to it. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's a simple but revolutionary idea. True power doesn't come from trying to silence the world around us, but from turning inward and cultivating a quiet mind amidst the storm. That's exactly what this video is all about. We're going to explore 30 practical, actionable shifts grounded in Stoic philosophy that you can start making today to transform distraction into focused intention, social noise into meaningful vision, and reactivity into purposeful response. This isn't about adding more to your to-do list or forcing yourself into a rigid routine. It's about small, intentional changes to the way you think, the way you spend your time, and the way you engage with the world, shifts that help you build a life rooted not in external validation, but in inner clarity and purpose. Whether you're feeling overwhelmed by the demands of modern life, struggling to stay focused on your goals, or simply longing for a greater sense of peace and direction, these ideas are designed to meet you where you are and guide you toward a quieter, more centered, and more vision-driven way of living. So if you're ready to quiet the noise and strengthen your focus, you're in the right place. Let's begin this journey together. Think for a moment about the very first thing you do when your eyes open in the morning. Is it a conscious, gentle return to awareness, or is it an automatic, fumbling reach for your phone to check the overnight notifications, the news, or what you might have missed? That initial action, that very first engagement with the world, sets the entire tone for your day. It's a tiny decision with enormous consequences. By immediately handing over your fresh, uncluttered mind to the demands and opinions of the external world, you are essentially starting your day on someone else's terms. You're inviting the noise in before you've even had a chance to hear your own voice. The Stoics were acutely aware of this vulnerability of the early mind. Seneca, in his moral letters, advised his friend Lucilius to take charge of the first moments of the day. He wrote that we must go to our sleep with the firm conviction that we'll wake to a busy day and will be first up. That first up isn't about beating the alarm clock. It's about being the first occupant of your own mind, claiming that precious, quiet territory before the outside world can lay siege to it. This is the foundation of the first quiet life shift, establishing a morning silence ritual. It's not about adding another task to your morning. It's about fiercely protecting the first few minutes from any and all external input. It's a deliberate practice of self-possession. Imagine 2 different mornings. In the first, the alarm sounds and the phone is instantly in hand. the mind is immediately flooded with emails, social comparisons, bad news headlines, and other people's agendas. The day begins in a state of reaction, of defense, and the nervous system is put on high alert before your feet even touch the floor. Contrast that with a morning of intentional silence. You wake, and instead of reaching outward, you turn inward. You might sit in stillness for just 5 minutes, focusing on the simple rhythm of your breath. You could engage in a brief session of Stoic journaling, perhaps writing down what is within your control today and what is not, or bringing to mind a single virtue you wish to embody. This isn't about achieving a state of blissful emptiness. It's about actively filling your own mind with your own chosen thoughts before anyone else gets a turn. This ritual is your daily declaration of independence from the chaos. It's how you build a reservoir of calm that you can draw from all day long. So what would this look like for you? It doesn't need to be an hour-long meditation. It could be 5 minutes of sipping tea while looking out a window, consciously refusing to pick up a device. It could be writing 3 things you're grateful for in a notebook. The specific activity matters less than the sacred intention behind it. To begin your day with you in the center, grounded and clear, rather than being pulled immediately into the swirling social noise. Where do you go when the world feels too loud, when opinions, demands, and digital chatter create a storm you can't seem to escape? For the Stoics, the answer wasn't found in a physical place or in changing external circumstances. It was found within, in what Marcus Aurelius called the inner citadel. He wrote in his private journal, "People look for retreats for themselves in the country, by the coast, or in the hills, but this is altogether unphilosophical when you can at any moment retreat into yourself." Nowhere can a person find a retreat more full of peace or more free from trouble than his own soul. This inner citadel isn't a physical fortress. It's a mental and emotional stronghold built on the unshakable foundation of your core values, your reason, and your capacity for self-trust. It's the sacred space within you that remains untouched by praise, criticism, trends, or chaos, a place where your vision remains clear even when the social noise is deafening. Building this citadel is the second quiet life shift, and it begins with a simple but profound act of discernment, learning to separate the things that are within your control from the things that are not. Your opinions, your judgments, your values, your actions, these are your domain. The opinions of others, their actions, the outcomes of events, your reputation, these lie outside your control. Every time you allow an external event or a stranger's comment to dictate your internal state, you are essentially leaving the gates of your citadel wide open, allowing the chaos to pour in and overrun your peace. The practice, then, is to consciously retreat behind your walls and survey the landscape from a place of calm sovereignty. This doesn't mean becoming arrogant or closed off to constructive feedback. A well-built citadel has gates that can be opened selectively. You can choose to let in useful, thoughtful critique that helps you grow, while keeping out the meaningless noise of baseless opinions or viral outrage. The difference is that you, from your place of inner clarity, become the gatekeeper. You decide what merits your attention and emotional energy. Imagine you're working on an important project, and you share an early idea with a few people. One offers thoughtful, specific advice. Another dismisses it with a vague, negative comment. Without an inner citadel, that offhand dismissal might deflate you entirely, causing you to doubt your entire vision. But from within your citadel, you can receive the useful feedback with gratitude while recognizing the negative comment for what it is: mere noise. An external event that has no power to define your work or your worth unless you grant it that power. This shift is about strengthening your mental boundaries so you are no longer a passive recipient of every bit of information and emotion the world throws at you. You become an active curator of your inner world. So how do you start building this fortress of the mind? It begins with identifying what you truly believe, separate from what you've been told to believe. What is one principle you hold about your work, your relationships, your purpose, that feels so true to you that no amount of external disagreement could ever shake it? It might be a belief in the importance of kindness, a commitment to your creative expression, or a trust in your own capacity to learn. Identify that one unwavering belief. That is a cornerstone of your inner citadel. Every time you reaffirm it, you are adding another stone to your wall, making your retreat stronger, quieter, and more resilient against the noise. Stoics like Seneca believed that consciously imagining the loss of the things we have is one of the most powerful ways to deepen our gratitude for them and dramatically reduce our anxiety about the future. This practice, known as Premeditatio Malorum or the premeditation of evils, might sound like a bleak exercise in pessimism at first glance, but its true purpose is the exact opposite. It is not about dwelling on misfortune or expecting the worst to happen. It is a profound mental training for grounding yourself firmly in the reality of what truly matters, making you less rattled by the unpredictable nature of external events. The goal is to voluntarily experience a potential loss in your mind under your own terms, so that if it ever does occur in reality, you are not caught completely off guard and emotionally wrecked. More importantly, by mentally removing something, you suddenly see its value with startling clarity, pulling it out of the background of your taken-for-granted daily life and placing it squarely in the light of your appreciation. Seneca captured the essence of this practice perfectly when he advised, "He robs present ills of their power who has perceived their coming beforehand." By preparing the mind for adversity, you effectively disarm that adversity of its element of surprise and its ability to shatter your peace. Consider how much of our daily anxiety is fueled by a vague, undefined fear of losing what we possess: our job, our health, our relationships, our comfortable routines. This fear buzzes in the background like static, a low-grade hum of unease that we try to ignore by seeking more security, more distractions, more assurances. Premeditatio Malorum asks you to turn and face that static directly, to give it a specific shape, and then watch as it often loses its power over you. For instance, take a moment to seriously imagine a day without the technology we so heavily rely upon. Picture waking up to a complete internet blackout, a failure of all mobile networks, and a power outage that renders your computer and television useless. Initially, the mind might rebel with panic about missed emails, cancelled plans, and a feeling of being utterly disconnected. But if you sit with this imagined scenario, pushing past the initial frustration, something else begins to emerge. You might notice the profound quiet that replaces the constant ping of notifications. You might find yourself actually looking at the people in your home, engaging in a conversation without the temptation of a phone in your hand. You might pick up a physical book you've been meaning to read or go for a walk simply to observe the world around you. This mental exercise isn't about predicting a dystopian future. It's about revealing the abundance and simplicity that are already available to you, hidden beneath layers of habitual dependence and noise. This practice systematically inoculates you against the shock of change and loss, which are inevitable parts of a human life. By regularly contemplating the temporary nature of everything from your possessions to your own life, you stop clinging to them with a desperate, fearful grip. You begin to hold them more loosely with a sense of grateful stewardship rather than anxious ownership. This creates a remarkable inner stability. When you have already sincerely appreciated your health by considering its absence, a minor illness becomes less of a catastrophic inconvenience and more of a temporary reminder of your body's normal state of wellness. When you have contemplated the possibility of a career shift not by choice but by circumstance, you might approach your current work with more dedication and presence, or you might be motivated to develop other skills not out of fear but from a place of empowered preparedness. The emotional charge around potential loss diminishes, replaced by a calm and clear-eyed acknowledgement of reality. This is the ultimate shift from social noise to unshakable vision. Your sense of purpose and well-being is no longer contingent on everything in your external life remaining perfectly static and secure, an impossible demand that the world will never meet. To integrate this shift, choose one common convenience or comfort you rely on every day. It could be your morning coffee, your car, the ability to video call a loved one who lives far away, or even the reliable function of your own two hands. For just a few minutes, mentally subtract it. Imagine it is gone, not as a punishment but as a thought experiment. Walk through your day without it. Notice the specific challenges that would arise, but also pay close attention to what that absence reveals. What other ways of doing things might you discover? What deeper appreciation for that object or ability surfaces? What aspects of your own resilience and creativity are called upon to adapt? This is not an invitation to live in a state of lack, but a powerful tool to reset your baseline of normalcy, breaking the spell of taking the incredible gifts of your present moment for granted. It is in this cleared mental space, free from the noise of assumption and entitlement, that a genuine and durable vision for your life can take root and grow. When was the last time you deliberately chose discomfort, not the kind forced upon you by a flat tire or a missed deadline, but a discomfort you willingly invited into your life for a specific purpose? In a culture that relentlessly sells us comfort, convenience, and instant gratification, the idea of seeking out hardship can seem counterintuitive, even absurd. Yet, this is precisely where the Stoics located a profound source of inner strength. They understood that a life devoted solely to avoiding discomfort is a fragile one, perpetually at the mercy of external circumstances. The philosopher Epictetus, who was born into slavery and faced immense hardship, drove this point home with his famous admonition: "So you must practice from the first to say to every harsh impression, you are an impression, and not at all the thing you appear to be. Then examine it and test it by these rules you have, and if it concerns anything not in our power, be ready to say, it is nothing to me." This practice wasn't about mere endurance, it was an active training regimen for the soul, designed to prove to yourself, through direct experience, that you are capable of handling far more than you think. It's about building a resilient character that finds its validation from within, not from the ever-changing comforts of the external world. Voluntary discomfort is the ultimate antidote to the fear and anxiety that social noise often amplifies. Much of our mental energy is spent worrying about potential future hardships, losing status, facing criticism, or experiencing financial strain. We try to insulate ourselves from these possibilities, but in doing so, we often make ourselves more vulnerable to them. The fear of the thing becomes more powerful than the thing itself. By occasionally and intentionally stepping into a manageable version of that discomfort, you pull the fangs from that fear. You demonstrate to your own nervous system that you can not only survive but also maintain your equilibrium in less than ideal conditions. This process systematically weakens your dependency on external validation and constant comfort. If you are no longer terrified of being a little cold or a little hungry or temporarily disconnected from the digital hive mind, then the opinions and reactions of others begin to lose their power over you. Your sense of self-worth becomes unhookable from these superficial conditions, freeing up immense mental energy to focus on your unshakable vision. So what does this look like in practice? It doesn't mean you need to sell all your belongings and sleep on a wooden plank. It's about small, deliberate acts of simplicity that challenge your automatic preferences. A practical example is a 24-hour digital detox, not as a punishment, but as a training exercise. From sunset on Friday to sunset on Saturday, you might choose to disconnect entirely from all non-essential screens. Notice the initial itch of boredom, the phantom urge to check for notifications, the slight anxiety about what you might be missing. Then, watch what emerges in that newly created quiet space. Perhaps a desire to read a physical book, have a long, uninterrupted conversation, or simply sit in stillness without a stream of content to consume. Another powerful practice is taking a cold shower. For the final 60 seconds of your morning routine, you turn the dial to cold. It's a direct physical confrontation with your desire for comfort, and it teaches you to breathe calmly and find focus amidst a sensation your entire body is screaming to avoid. Even something as simple as choosing a minimalist meal, a plain bowl of oatmeal for breakfast instead of a sugary pastry, or a simple meal of rice and vegetables for dinner, can be a practice in appreciating sufficiency over luxury and breaking the cycle of constantly seeking pleasure from external sources. The true purpose of these exercises is not to prove how tough you are or to adopt a lifestyle of austerity. The goal is to cultivate a deep and unassailable sense of freedom. You are proving to yourself that your happiness and your peace are not held hostage by perfect conditions. When you know you can be content with less, you engage with the world from a place of choice, not desperation. You stop making decisions from a fear of losing comfort and start making them from a place of aligned purpose. This week, I encourage you to plan one small act of voluntary discomfort. It could be leaving your phone in another room for an entire evening, taking a walk in slightly chilly weather without complaining, or fasting from a particular form of entertainment you lean on heavily. Approach it not as a chore, but as an experiment. Observe your reactions, note the mental resistance, and most importantly, witness the quiet confidence that blooms on the other side when you realize you are still perfectly okay. This is how you forge a resilience that turns the volume of social noise all the way down, because you are no longer afraid of the silence. Not all input deserves your attention. This is a foundational principle of Stoic thought, yet it stands in direct opposition to the modern world's default setting of maximum consumption. We are encouraged to absorb everything, to stay endlessly informed, to be constantly plugged into a fire hose of content, news, and opinions. But the Stoics would ask a simple, piercing question. Is this making you better, or is it merely making you busier? Is it filling your mind with clarity and purpose, or with clutter and anxiety? Marcus Aurelius offered a powerful metaphor for how we should manage the constant stream of sensory and mental data we encounter. He wrote, "Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought, for the human spirit is colored by such impressions." He advised us to treat every incoming impression, every piece of information, not as an unquestionable truth to be immediately absorbed, but as a visitor knocking at the door of our mind. We have the absolute power to ask, do you deserve to come in? Are you aligned with my values? Will you help me build the person I wish to become? This is the essence of the fifth quiet life shift, moving from passive consumption to active curation of your inputs. Think of your mind as a sacred garden. Every piece of information, every news headline, every social media post, every conversation is a seed. If you allow any and every seed to be scattered recklessly across your soil, you will end up with a chaotic, overgrown patch of weeds. Fear, envy, outrage, distraction, and insecurity will choke out the delicate plants of focused thought and purposeful vision. The practice of curation is the deliberate work of a discerning gardener. You must become fiercely protective of your soil, carefully selecting only the seeds that will yield the harvest you actually want: wisdom, peace, clarity, and strength. This doesn't mean building a brittle bubble of only positive news. It means choosing nutrient-rich information that helps you understand the world more deeply and act within it more virtuously, while refusing the toxic, sensational, or trivial gossip that serves no purpose other than to agitate. Consider the stark difference between two common morning routines. One person wakes up and immediately begins scrolling through a social media feed, an algorithmically engineered vortex of curated highlight reels, political outrage, and viral drama. Within minutes, their mind is colored by comparison, insecurity about their own life, and anger about events completely outside their control. Their day begins on the defensive, emotionally drained before it has even started. Another person chooses to spend those same 20 minutes reading a few pages of a philosophy book, a deeply researched article on a topic they are passionate about, or even listening to a podcast that offers practical skills. They are not just consuming, they are feeding their mind with substance, priming it for thoughtful action rather than reactive emotion. Both individuals have consumed information, but one has been colored by noise, the other fortified by signal. This shift requires a ruthless audit of your information diet. It means asking not just what you are consuming, but why you are consuming it. Are you checking the news for the third time today to become a more informed citizen? Or is it a nervous habit, a hit of adrenaline that fuels a sense of anxiety you've mistaken for being in the know? Are you scrolling through social media to genuinely connect with friends? Or is it an automatic, mindless escape from a moment of boredom that ultimately leaves you feeling more empty? The Stoic aim is to act with intention in every sphere, and that absolutely includes what we allow into our most valuable real estate, our attention. Start with a single, simple elimination. Identify one source of noise that you know, in your gut, adds no value to your life but only subtracts from your peace. It might be a particular news app that thrives on panic, a social media account that consistently makes you feel inadequate, or even a habit of listening to contentious talk radio during your commute. For 1 week, commit to removing that one source. Don't just try to use it less, create a tangible barrier. Delete the app from your phone, unsubscribe from the newsletter, or choose an audiobook instead of the radio. Notice the space that its absence creates. What subtle tension leaves your shoulders? What more productive or peaceful thought naturally arises to fill that quiet gap? This act of conscious removal is not an act of deprivation. It is a profound declaration of sovereignty over your own inner world. How often are you truly, completely here, right now? Not mentally rehashing a difficult conversation from yesterday, or anxiously rehearsing a meeting that's still 2 days away, but fully present in this single, fleeting moment. For most of us, the answer is rarely. Our minds are time travelers, constantly leaping into a past we cannot change or a future we cannot predict. And this mental absence is a primary source of the anxiety and distraction we call social noise. The Stoics identified this human tendency millennia ago and prescribed a powerful antidote: the deliberate practice of anchoring your awareness firmly in the present. Epictetus, with his characteristic focus on practical action, advised, "Don't let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole. Stick with the situation at hand." He wasn't suggesting we ignore planning or reflection, but rather that we recognize the present moment as the only territory where we can actually exert any real control or take any meaningful action. Your vision for your life isn't built in the regrets of yesterday or the worries of tomorrow. It is constructed brick by brick with the focused attention you bring to your current task, your current conversation, your current breath. This Stoic mindfulness is far more than a vague feeling of calm. It is a rigorous exercise in cognitive control. It is the practice of noticing when your mind has drifted into the noisy realms of past and future and gently, but firmly, guiding it back to the reality directly in front of you. The past is immutable. It is nothing but a story we tell ourselves, often edited by emotion. The future is a realm of pure imagination, shaped by our hopes and fears, but ultimately unknowable. The present moment, however, is the only thing that is real and tangible. It is the only point of contact we have with our actual lives. When you are fully present, the social noise fades because you are no longer giving energy to the opinions of others that are tied to past events or future possibilities. You are simply here, engaging with what is directly before you. This is the ultimate act of prioritization, filtering out the abstract to fully experience the actual. A simple and profoundly accessible way to practice this is through what we might call a sensory audit. It requires no special equipment, no quiet room, and only a few seconds of your time. Wherever you are right now, you can drop out of the swirling thoughts in your head and into the reality of your physical experience. Notice 5 things you can see, not just labeling them, but truly observing their color, texture, and shape. Then, shift your attention to 4 things you can feel: the weight of your body in the chair, the texture of your shirt against your skin, the temperature of the air on your hands. Listen for 3 distinct sounds, perhaps the hum of an appliance, the distant sound of traffic, or the rhythm of your own breathing. This isn't an empty relaxation technique. It is an active recalibration of your attention, pulling it away from the abstract noise of the mind and into the concrete, manageable reality of the immediate world. It proves to you through direct experience that right here, right now, you are fundamentally okay. Another powerful Stoic tool is to completely immerse yourself in your current duty, no matter how mundane. Marcus Aurelius wrote about performing even the most routine tasks like brushing your hair with intent and presence. Washing a dish, then, becomes an exercise in focusing entirely on the feel of the warm water, the sight of the soap bubbles, the motion of your hands. This full absorption in a simple action is a form of meditation that starves the distractions of past and future of their oxygen. So let's try this together. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, just pause for a moment. You don't need to close your eyes or change your posture. Simply notice 3 things you can perceive through your senses right at this second. It could be the weight of your phone in your hand, the quality of the light in the room, or the faint scent of coffee in the air. In that brief moment of pure noticing, the internal commentary stops. The regrets and worries are temporarily silenced. You have, even if just for a few heartbeats, reclaimed your mind from the noise and anchored yourself firmly in the only time and place where your life actually happens and where your vision can finally take root. Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, mentally wrestling with a problem that you have absolutely no power to solve? Perhaps it's frustration over a relative who refuses to change their habits, anxiety about a looming economic forecast, or even just irritation about the rainy weather that ruined your weekend plans. We pour an enormous amount of our mental energy into things that are ultimately outside our jurisdiction, and this habit is a massive source of the internal noise that clouds our vision. The 7th shift addresses this directly by teaching us to make a crucial distinction, one that Epictetus laid out as the very first step on the path to a tranquil mind. He began his famous Enchiridion with this powerful line: "Some things are up to us and some are not up to us. Our opinions, impulses, desires, and aversions are within our power. Our property, our reputation, our body, and our commanding office are not. This isn't a casual suggestion. It's the foundational filter through which a Stoic views every single event, large and small. The goal is not to stop caring about things, but to redirect your caring energy from what you cannot influence toward what you absolutely can, your own judgments and actions. This is the practice of differentiating between control and concern. Think of your mental energy as a finite currency. Every time you spend that currency worrying about an outcome you cannot dictate, you are making a poor investment. You are draining your account for zero return, leaving yourself bankrupt of focus and clarity when it comes to the things you actually can change. Worrying about whether it will rain is a withdrawal from your account with no possible gain. Deciding to bring an umbrella or reschedule your picnic with a cheerful attitude is an investment that yields a return in peace and preparedness. The former is concern without control, the latter is concern channeled into controlled action. This dichotomy is the ultimate decluttering tool for the mind. It allows you to take a chaotic list of worries and sort them into two very simple piles: the pile of things that merit your effort and attention, and the pile of things you must consciously release to the universe. The moment you place a worry into that second pile, you experience an immediate lightening of your cognitive load. The noise simply stops. Consider one of the most universal sources of social noise, the opinions of other people. How often does the thought, "What will they think of me?" alter your behavior, sap your confidence, or send you into a spiral of self-doubt? From a Stoic perspective, this is the quintessential error. The opinions, thoughts, and judgments of others exist firmly in the category of things not up to us. We cannot control them, no matter how much we might try to people-please, perform, or persuade. Every ounce of energy spent trying to manage another person's perception is an ounce wasted. The shift occurs when you stop asking, "How can I make them like me?" and start asking, "What are the values I want to embody in this interaction?" The first question is focused on an uncontrollable external outcome. The second is focused entirely on your own controllable character. You can choose to be kind, honest, and courageous. You cannot choose whether someone interprets that kindness as weakness, your honesty as rudeness, or your courage as arrogance. Releasing the demand for a specific external result frees you to act with integrity, regardless of the applause or criticism that may follow. Your vision clears because you are no longer looking sideways at your audience. You are looking forward at the path you have chosen for yourself. To integrate this shift, I want you to try a simple but transformative exercise. Take a piece of paper and draw a line down the center. On the left side, right, within my control. On the right, outside my control. Now, think of one single concern that has been occupying your mind lately. It could be a work project, a personal relationship, or a future event. Break it down, write every component of that worry in its appropriate column. For instance, if your worry is giving a successful presentation, your list might look like this: within my control, how much I prepare, the clarity of my slides, practicing my delivery, getting a good night's sleep beforehand, focusing on providing value to the audience. Outside my control, how the technology will perform, who will be in the audience, the questions they will ask, whether they will be engaged or distracted, the final outcome or decision that follows. The act of physically writing this out moves the concept from an abstract philosophy to a concrete map of your mental landscape. It visually demonstrates where your energy should be directed, and just as importantly, where it should be compassionately released. The peace that follows this act of discernment is not a passive resignation. It is an active and empowered focus. You are not giving up on the situation. You are finally focusing on the part of it where you can actually make a difference. When do you do your most focused, high-quality work? Is it in the scattered moments between notifications, during a meeting, or while half listening to a podcast? For most of us, the honest answer is that we rarely create the conditions for true, deep focus to occur. We mistake busyness for productivity and multitasking for capability, all while the most important work, the work that actually moves us toward our vision, gets perpetually postponed. The Stoics championed a virtue they called diligentia, a focused, careful, and unwavering application of one's energy to the task at hand. This isn't about merely being busy, it's about being effective in a way that honors your time and your purpose. Seneca, in his letters, was acutely aware of how we fritter away our most precious resource. He observed, "Life is long if you know how to use it, but we shorten it dramatically by breaking it into 1,000 distracted fragments." He argued for the immense value of concentrated effort, of bringing the full force of your attention to a single point. This is the essence of the eighth shift, moving from scattered reactivity to cultivated deep work. It is the deliberate practice of carving out sacred, uninterrupted intervals of time dedicated solely to a single meaningful task, creating a fortress of focus in a world designed to disrupt it. Think of your attention not as an endless well, but as a laser. A laser's power comes from its coherence, all the light waves moving in perfect unison toward one precise target. This is what happens in a state of deep work. Your cognitive resources are aligned, creating a beam of mental energy capable of cutting through complex problems and producing exceptional results. Contrast this with the light of a common light bulb, dispersed, unfocused, illuminating everything a little but nothing with any real intensity. This is the state of multitasking and constant interruption. It creates a gentle glow of activity but generates no meaningful heat or transformative power. The social noise of pings, pop-ups, and the internal urge to check for updates is the equivalent of putting 1,000 tiny filters in front of that light bulb, ensuring it can never become a laser. The Stoic practice is to remove those filters, to choose for a defined period, to let nothing else matter but the one thing in front of you. To understand the transformative power of this, consider a practical comparison. Imagine you need to write an important report. In one scenario, you open your document but leave your email, social media, and messaging apps open. Over the course of 2 hours, you write a few sentences, get distracted by a notification, and spend 10 minutes on an irrelevant email. Return to the report. Then remember you need to check a fact online and fall into a 30-minute internet rabbit hole. At the end of 2 hours, you feel exhausted from context switching and have produced one mediocre page filled with errors. Now, imagine you instead commit to a single 25-minute deep work interval. You silence all notifications, put your phone in another room, and set a timer. For that entire period, your entire world is that report. Because you are not dissipating your energy across 10 different tabs in your brain, you enter a state of flow. Ideas connect more easily, sentences form with greater clarity, and you make significant progress. At the end of 25 minutes, you may have produced 2 pages of high-quality work and feel a sense of accomplishment rather than exhaustion. The first approach is a victory for distraction. The second is a practice of Stoic discipline, a direct application of your power over your mind. This practice is a profound declaration of your priorities. By scheduling and protecting a deep work block, you are effectively telling the world, and more importantly, yourself, that your vision is important enough to deserve your undivided attention. It is a tangible way to practice the Stoic art of distinguishing between what is urgent and what is truly important. The ping of a new email feels urgent, but it is rarely important. The slow, steady progress on a project that aligns with your core purpose is incredibly important, but it rarely feels urgent. Deep work forces you to act on what is important. So here is a direct challenge, a call to move from understanding to action. Look at your calendar for tomorrow. I want you to schedule one single, uninterrupted 25-minute block for a deep work session. It doesn't matter if it's first thing in the morning or in the quiet of the evening. Choose one priority task, something that genuinely contributes to your long-term vision, not just your endless to-do list. Protect that time as if it were a meeting with your most important client, because in truth, you are meeting with the most important client you will ever have, your future self. How do you make sense of your day before you finally close your eyes and surrender to sleep? Do you scroll through one last feed, hoping to quiet the mind with more input, or do you lie there replaying conversations and regrets on an endless loop? For the Stoics, the transition from day to night was not a time for more consumption or anxious rumination. It was a sacred opportunity for the most important work of all, turning your gaze inward to process, learn, and fortify your character. This practice of daily reflection, often done through journaling, was what they called an evening audit, a methodical review of the day's events, not to judge yourself harshly, but to distill wisdom from experience and consciously reinforce the lessons that move you closer to your vision. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the known world, dedicated himself to this humble practice. His personal journal, now known as Meditations, is perhaps the greatest testament to its power. He wasn't writing for an audience, he was having a conversation with himself, clarifying his thoughts and holding himself accountable. In one entry, he captures the spirit of this review. When you have difficulty getting up in the morning, tell yourself, "I'm getting up to do the work of a human being." This nightly practice was how he ensured he would wake up with that clarity of purpose. Having already processed the noise of the previous day, the power of this shift lies in its ability to transform passive experience into active learning. Without reflection, our days blur into a meaningless sequence of reactions. We move from stimulus to response, buffeted by external events, and we rarely pause to ask the most important question: why? Why did that comment make me so angry? Why did I procrastinate on that important task? Why did I feel such deep satisfaction during that quiet walk? Stoic journaling is the tool that forces this pause. It is the deliberate act of sifting through the raw material of your day, the successes, the failures, the triggers, the moments of peace, and extracting the golden nuggets of self-knowledge. It's not about creating a detailed log of every event, but about examining your judgments and reactions within those events. Did you meet a frustrating delay with impatience and anger? Or did you remember to classify it as an external obstacle outside your control and choose a calm response? This audit isn't about achieving perfection. It's about noticing the gap between the person you aspire to be and the person you were today, and then using that awareness to gently close that gap tomorrow. Implementing this is beautifully simple and requires nothing more than a notebook and a few minutes of honest attention. The goal is structure, not length. You might begin with 3 straightforward prompts, directly inspired by the Stoics. First, what went well today? Where did I act with virtue? This is not about arrogant self-praise. It's about recognizing and reinforcing positive behavior. Maybe you showed courage by speaking up in a meeting when it would have been easier to stay silent. Perhaps you practiced justice by listening patiently to a colleague you disagree with. Acknowledging these moments wires your brain to repeat them. The second prompt is, where did I stray from my values? What could I have done differently? Approach this with the detached curiosity of a scientist analyzing data, not the harshness of a judge delivering a verdict. The purpose is diagnosis, not condemnation. Perhaps you lost your temper in traffic, granting a stranger control over your emotional state. Maybe you wasted an hour scrolling mindlessly instead of reading. Note the misstep without drama, and then, crucially, envision a better response for next time. The final prompt is, what did I learn? This forces you to find the lesson in both the triumph and the failure, ensuring that no day, no matter how difficult, is ever truly wasted. It all becomes fuel for growth. This evening ritual is the ultimate filter for social noise. All the opinions you encountered, the criticisms you received, the comparisons you made, you now get to process them through the lens of your own values rather than carrying them raw and unexamined into your sleep. You are quite literally digesting the mental input of the day, absorbing what is nutritious for your spirit and expelling what is toxic. The chaos of external events gets organized into a coherent narrative of personal progress. So tonight, before you reach for your phone or let the day's worries chase you into your dreams, I invite you to try this. Open a notebook or a blank document and write just one single insight from your day. It doesn't have to be profound. It could be as simple as, I learned that I am most productive before 10 a.m. Or, I noticed I feel anxious when I haven't had time alone. This one small act is a declaration that your day mattered, that your experiences have meaning, and that you are actively participating in the shaping of your own character and your unshakable vision. Comparison is the thief of joy and clarity. It's a quiet, corrosive habit where we measure our own complex, messy, behind-the-scenes reality against the polished, curated highlight reels of everyone else's lives. In an age of perpetual digital performance, this tendency has been weaponized, turning our innate social nature against us and filling our minds with a static of inadequacy that drowns out our own inner voice. The Stoics identified this longing for external validation as a fundamental obstacle to a tranquil and purposeful life. Their solution was not to try and outperform everyone else in the race for status, but to step off that track entirely and run a race of your own making, judged by your own standards. Seneca saw this with piercing clarity, writing, "What you owe yourself is greater than what you owe other people's opinions." He observed that when we envy the surfaces of other people's lives, their possessions, their acclaim, their apparent success, we are like children who prefer a cheap, colorful trinket to a truly valuable asset. We are chasing the appearance of a good life rather than the substance of one, and in doing so, we hand over the keys to our own self-worth, allowing it to be held hostage by the ever-changing fortunes and opinions of others. This shift from external to internal benchmarking is a radical act of reclamation. It asks a simple but profound question. Who gets to define what a successful, meaningful life is for you? Is it the vague, collective opinion of your social feed, the expectations of your family, the accomplishments of your peers? Or is it you, based on a deeply personal set of values and a vision you have defined for yourself? The Stoic answer is unequivocally the latter. Your progress, your virtue, your character, these are the only true measures of a life well lived. When you adopt this frame, the entire game changes. Someone else's promotion is no longer a verdict on your own stalled career. It is simply an external event, a fact of the world that has no bearing on your capacity for diligence, integrity, or growth in your own work. Another person's perfect vacation photos are not evidence of your own life's dullness, but a reminder to savor the simple, unphotographed moments of connection or beauty in your own day. The noise of comparison fades because you are no longer tuned to that frequency. Consider the practical difference this makes. Imagine two aspiring writers. The first defines her success by external markers, landing a specific agent, getting a six-figure advance, seeing her book on a bestseller list. Every time she sees another author achieve one of these things, it feels like a personal failure, a confirmation of her own inadequacy. Her motivation is brittle, fueled by a need to win a race against invisible competitors, and it shatters easily under the weight of envy and self-doubt. The second writer, grounded in Stoic principles, defines her success internally by the discipline of writing 500 words each day, by the courage to share her work for constructive feedback, by the integrity of telling a story that feels true to her. The achievements of other authors become sources of inspiration or learning, not threats. She can genuinely celebrate a colleague's success because it does not diminish her own progress, which is measured on a completely different scale. Her motivation is durable because it is sourced from within, from her own actions and character, which are always within her control. To begin integrating this shift, choose one specific area of your life where the habit of comparison is strongest. It might be your career trajectory, your physical fitness, your creative output, or even the perceived perfection of someone else's home. Now, consciously reframe it. Instead of asking, "Why am I not as successful as they are?" ask, "What is one small step I can take today that aligns with my own definition of meaningful progress?" This moves your focus from a passive, agonizing observation of an uncontrollable external reality to an active, empowering step within your own sphere of influence. That step has nothing to do with anyone else. It is a quiet, personal commitment to your own vision, and it is the most powerful antidote to the noise of the world. Remembering death can sharpen life. This might sound like a dark or unsettling thought, but in the hands of the Stoics, it was anything but. They called this practice Memento Mori, a Latin phrase that translates to "remember you must die." Far from being a morbid obsession with the end, this was a profound psychological tool designed to instill a powerful sense of urgency, clarity, and gratitude into every single day. The Stoics understood that the awareness of our finite time on Earth is the ultimate antidote to procrastination, trivial worries, and the seductive pull of social noise. When you genuinely internalize the fact that your time is limited and could end at any moment, the opinions of strangers, the need for perfect conditions, and the allure of mindless distraction simply lose their grip. This knowledge acts like a filter, instantly separating what is truly essential from what is merely superficial. Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who carried the weight of the world on his shoulders, returned to this idea again and again in his private writings as a way to ground himself in what mattered. He offered this piercing reminder: you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. That is the core of the practice. It's not a threat, it's an invitation to live with incredible intention. It asks you to consider that this day, this very hour, might be the final piece of time you are given. How does that thought change the quality of your attention? How does it alter what you feel is worth your energy? Suddenly, holding a grudge feels like a wasteful expenditure of precious moments. Scrolling through endless comparisons feels like a betrayal of the gift of consciousness. The practice collapses all the artificial complexities of life down to a single, vital question: is this how I would choose to spend my last day? This perspective is a powerful amplifier for your vision. Think about the concerns that typically dominate our mental space: fretting over a minor criticism, anxiety about an upcoming social event, irritation at a slow driver in front of us. Under the lens of Memento Mori, these concerns reveal their true size: insignificant. They are background static that fades into nothing when confronted with the sheer magnitude of being alive. Conversely, the things that align with your deepest values, expressing love to your family, creating something meaningful, learning something new, helping someone in need, are thrown into brilliant, vivid relief. The memory of death doesn't create a sense of panic. It creates a profound sense of priority. It is the tool that scrapes away the rust of habit and distraction to reveal the bright, clear metal of your purpose underneath. To make this a practical shift and not just a philosophical idea, try this simple reflective prompt at the start of your day. Ask yourself with genuine seriousness, if I knew today was my last, what would I absolutely make sure to do? Who would I reach out to? What project would I focus on, not for external reward, but for the pure satisfaction of completing it? The answers that arise aren't about planning a dramatic finale. They are clues to your unshakable vision. They point directly to the people, activities, and principles that form the core of a life well lived according to you. This daily reminder ensures you are building a life you won't regret, one focused day at a time. It turns the distant, abstract concept of mortality into a practical, life-affirming guide for how to live right now. How many of the tasks on your to-do list, the events on your calendar, and the obligations you've said yes to actually serve your deepest vision for your life? It's a jarring question because for so many of us, our schedules are a monument not to our intentions, but to our inability to say no. We become busy but not effective, stretched thin but not stretched in a meaningful direction. The ancient Stoics saw this frantic activity for what it truly is: a sophisticated form of distraction. Seneca, in his moral letters, cuts to the heart of it with a devastating observation. Living is the least important activity of the preoccupied man. He wasn't talking about laziness. He was pointing to a life so cluttered with trivial pursuits and external demands that there is no room left for the actual work of living with purpose. This is the essence of the 12th quiet life shift, moving from a cluttered schedule of reactive commitments to a streamlined portfolio of intentional actions, each one carefully chosen for its alignment with your core values. This practice is about far more than simple time management. It is a profound exercise in Stoic discernment, a direct application of the dichotomy of control. Your time and your attention are your most precious non-renewable resources. Every commitment you make is a withdrawal from that finite account. The question is, are you investing those resources in assets that grow your character and your vision? Or are you frittering them away on liabilities that drain your energy and cloud your focus? A cluttered schedule is often a symptom of a mind that has not yet fully decided what is truly important. It's a life lived by default, where your time is allocated by the requests, expectations, and minor emergencies of others. You end up building a life that looks impressive on a calendar but feels hollow and exhausting to live. A streamlined, purpose-driven schedule, by contrast, is a physical manifestation of a clear mind. It is a life lived by design, where your yeses are powerful because they are rare and guarded by 1,000 thoughtful nos. Imagine 2 different weeks laid out on a calendar. The first is a mosaic of colors, back-to-back meetings, social obligations you feel you should attend, committee work you agreed to out of guilt, and endless errands that serve no larger goal. It looks full, even productive, but if you were to audit it through a Stoic lens, asking, did this activity strengthen my virtue? Did it directly serve my purpose? You might find that 80% of it was merely motion, not direction. It was busyness masquerading as business. Now picture a second calendar. It has significant white space blocks of time fiercely protected for deep work, for reflection, for family, and for rest. The commitments that are there for a reason. A meeting aligns with a key professional goal. A social engagement is with people who genuinely energize and inspire you. A period of service is a conscious expression of your value of community. This schedule might look less impressive from the outside, but it is an engine for inner clarity and tangible progress. The first schedule is a leaf blown by the wind of other people's priorities. The second is a rudder deliberately steering a course. To begin this simplification, you must become a ruthless editor of your own life. This isn't about becoming selfish. It is about becoming strategic with your one precious life. The Stoic virtue of justice applies here: justice to yourself and your potential. It is unjust to your purpose to squander your energy on pursuits that do not serve it. This week, I challenge you to make one concrete edit. Review your upcoming commitments with the cold eye of an auditor. Find one single obligation, a recurring meeting, a social event, a volunteer role, even a habitual errand, that does not pass a simple two-question test. First, does this activity align with my core values and my long-term vision? Second, if I were not already doing this, would I choose to start it today? If the answer to both is no, you have identified a candidate for elimination. Your task is not just to think about removing it, but to actually do it. Send the polite email to step down. Decline the invitation with gratitude but firmness. Delegate the task or simply stop doing it. This single act of intentional subtraction is not a loss. It is a monumental gain. It is you reclaiming a piece of your life from the noise of expectation and reinvesting it directly into your vision. How do you typically react when your focus is shattered by an unexpected interruption, or when you receive criticism that feels like a personal attack? For most of us, the default setting is a swift, sharp, and often regrettable reaction. A flash of anger, a defensive retort, a sinking feeling of inadequacy. These emotional knee-jerk responses are like cracks in our inner citadel, allowing the social noise to flood in and dictate our state of mind. The 13th shift addresses this vulnerability head-on by introducing a powerful Stoic tool, the pre-decided response protocol. This is the practice of consciously creating a space, however small, between the external event that happens to you and your internal, chosen response to it. It's about moving from being a reactive pinball, bounced around by every bump and flipper of circumstance, to becoming the calm, intentional player of the game. The goal is not to suppress emotion, but to prevent emotion from hijacking your actions and your peace. The foundational insight for this comes from Epictetus, who famously stated, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He went even further, explaining that we are not disturbed by events themselves, but by the judgments we make about those events. This tiny gap, the sliver of time and consciousness between the event and your judgment of it, is where your freedom resides. It is in this space that you can insert your protocol, your pre-rehearsed, values-aligned response. The Stoics called this the discipline of assent, the practice of withholding your automatic agreement from initial, often negative, impressions until you have had a chance to examine them with your rational mind. You are training yourself to see the triggering event not as a catastrophe, but as a neutral piece of data until you assign it meaning. Implementing this begins with a simple, two-part mental exercise. First, you must proactively identify your most common triggers. These are the specific situations that consistently pull you out of your center and into a state of reaction. Perhaps it's a particular colleague's condescending tone in meetings, your teenager's eye roll, a critical comment on a piece of work you've shared, or simply the frustration of being stuck in traffic when you're already late. The key is to get specific. Don't just say stress. Identify the exact scenario that causes it. Once you have a clear trigger in mind, the second step is to craft your protocol, your pre-decided, calm, and virtuous response. This isn't about scripting a robotic dialogue. It's about scripting your internal state and your first, controlled action. Let's make this concrete. Imagine your identified trigger is receiving negative feedback on a project you poured your heart into. Your automatic, unexamined reaction might be a surge of defensive anger, followed by a lengthy internal monologue about the reviewer's incompetence, which ruins your afternoon and poisons your attitude. Your Stoic response protocol for this trigger would be a pre-written mental script that you activate the moment you recognize the trigger. It might look something like this. 1. Upon receiving the feedback, my first action is to take one deep, slow breath. This physically interrupts the stress response. 2. I will silently say to myself, this is an external event. My work is separate from my worth. This applies the dichotomy of control. 3. I will look for one piece of actionable data in the criticism that I can use to improve, and I will thank the person for that specific piece. This aligns with the virtue of humility and a commitment to growth. By having this protocol ready, you are not caught off guard. You have a plan. The event occurs, and instead of being swept away by the emotional current, you consciously execute your plan. You reclaim your power in that moment. So, your reflective task is this: bring to mind one single, frequent trigger in your own life. It doesn't have to be a monumental source of drama. Often, the smaller, daily irritations are the best place to practice. Now, write down your 3-step Stoic response protocol for it. What is the first physical action you will take to create space? What is the one Stoic truth or phrase you will repeat to yourself to reframe the event? What is the one virtuous action you will choose to take? This simple act of preparation is like installing mental armor. It ensures that the next time life throws a predictable curveball, you won't be swinging wildly in panic. You'll be poised, balanced, and ready to respond with a clarity that leaves the social noise baffled and powerless. When was the last time you truly noticed the natural world, not as a backdrop for a photo or a route to your next destination, but as a living, breathing system you are an inseparable part of? For many of us, our daily existence is a completely human-made construct of screens, schedules, and synthetic environments. A reality so insulated that we can go days without feeling the wind on our skin or truly listening to the sound of rain. This disconnect from the natural world is a profound source of the internal noise we've been discussing, because we are severing ourselves from the very rhythms that have calmed and centered human beings for millennia. The Stoics didn't just appreciate nature as a pleasant diversion. They saw it as the ultimate source of perspective, a direct reflection of the rational, harmonious cosmos they believed we should align our lives with. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this theme in his private writings, urging himself to see the beauty and order in the natural world as a guide for his own soul. He wrote, "The nature of the whole is pleased with what is in harmony with it, and pleased with itself for creating what is in harmony with it." He found solace in the thought that just as a single fig ripens at its own perfect time, so too do human events unfold according to a grand, interconnected design that we are privileged to witness. This practice of nature immersion is the 14th quiet life shift, and its power lies in its ability to instantly recalibrate our sense of scale and time. The social noise of online arguments, professional rivalries, and personal anxieties thrives in the small, frantic world we build in our heads. But step into a forest, stand by the ocean, or even sit quietly in a park, and that noise is immediately put into its proper, tiny perspective. You are confronted with a system that operates on a timescale of centuries and millennia, not minutes and news cycles. A tree does not hurry, a river does not worry about its reputation, the stars do not post updates. Immersing yourself in this environment is a direct sensory lesson in patience, resilience, and the quiet, immense power of simply being according to your own nature. It is the ultimate antidote to the artificial urgency and superficial values that the digital world constantly injects into our minds. To experience this shift, you don't need to plan a week-long wilderness expedition. The goal is a quality of attention, not a quantity of time or distance traveled. A practical and deeply Stoic exercise is to take a 20-minute walk with a single, non-negotiable rule. Leave all devices behind, or at the very least, turn them off and keep them out of sight. This isn't a walk for exercise or transportation. It is a walk for perception, As you move, consciously direct your senses outward. Notice 5 different textures: the rough bark of an oak tree, the smooth surface of a stone, the soft give of moss. Try to identify 3 distinct sounds that aren't made by people or machines: the chatter of a squirrel, the rustle of leaves in a breeze, the distant call of a bird. Observe the incredible variety of greens in the leaves or the way the light filters through the branches and creates patterns on the path. This practice of deep, sensory observation forces your mind out of its abstract loops of past and future and anchors it firmly, peacefully, in the tangible reality of the present moment. You are not just looking at nature, you are practicing being a part of it, a conscious observer in a vast, beautiful, and unhurried system. This week, I extend a simple but transformative invitation. Find 10 minutes in your day. It could be a morning break, a lunch hour, or the time after dinner, and go outside with the sole intention of observing. You don't need a grand vista. A small backyard, a neighborhood tree, or even a single plant on a balcony will serve as your portal. For those 10 minutes, let your only task be to witness the natural world in operation. Watch how a bird gathers materials, how clouds change shape, how insects move from leaf to leaf. In this quiet observation, you will likely find that the noisy problems that felt so monumental an hour ago have somehow shrunk to a manageable size, and a deep, wordless sense of peace has taken their place. This is the perspective that nature freely offers, a reminder that you are part of a much larger, more enduring, and more harmonious whole. Gratitude isn't passive, it's an active defense against discontent, a cognitive shield you deliberately raise against the endless barrage of wants, comparisons, and complaints that the world offers. The Stoics understood this not as a feel-good exercise, but as a rigorous discipline of perception, a way to systematically train your mind to see abundance where it might only see lack. In a philosophy often associated with enduring hardship, the practice of gratitude stands out as a powerful tool for not just surviving life, but for truly appreciating it on your own terms. Seneca, who enjoyed immense wealth but was deeply aware of its fragility, placed immense value on this mental shift. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." This gets to the very heart of the practice. Poverty, from a Stoic perspective, is not a condition of your bank account but a state of your mind, a relentless craving for what is outside your control. True wealth, therefore, is the cultivated ability to take genuine joy and satisfaction in what you already possess, which is always within your control to appreciate. This practice functions as a shield because it actively blocks the piercing arrows of envy and dissatisfaction. Every moment you spend in genuine gratitude for what you have is a moment you are not spent in anxious longing for what you don't. It is a conscious rerouting of your attention from the uncontrollable external world to the rich internal landscape of your present reality. Think of it as the direct opposite of the comparison habit we discussed earlier. Where comparison looks at another's life and whispers, "You are lacking," gratitude looks at your own life and says, "This is enough and it is good." This doesn't promote complacency. Rather, it creates a foundation of contentment from which all striving becomes healthier. You pursue goals from a place of abundance and curiosity, not from a place of desperate inadequacy. Your vision becomes clearer because it is no longer clouded by the fog of what you believe you need to be happy. To see the stark contrast, consider a common daily scenario. You're stuck in traffic, running late for an appointment. The default, noisy reaction is a spiral of complaint, anger at the other drivers, frustration with the city's infrastructure, anxiety about the consequences of being late. This mental state tenses your body, clouds your judgment, and ruins the next 30 minutes of your life, all over an event you cannot change. Now, apply the Stoic shield of gratitude. In that same traffic jam, you consciously shift your focus. You might feel gratitude for the vehicle that shelters you from the weather, for the podcast you're listening to that is expanding your mind, or even for the simple fact that you have a destination to go to and people who expect you. The external circumstance hasn't changed one bit. You are still in traffic, but your internal world has been completely transformed from a cauldron of frustration to a haven of relative peace. You have not been defeated by the obstacle. You have used it as an opportunity to practice a virtue. Integrating this shift requires moving it from a nice idea to a non-negotiable daily ritual. The most effective method is a simple nightly gratitude inventory, a perfect companion to the evening audit we covered earlier. Instead of just reviewing your mistakes, you also consciously catalog your gifts. And here is the crucial part: you must be specific. Vague generalities like, "I'm grateful for my family," have less power than the specific sensory detail of, "I'm grateful for the sound of my daughter's laughter when I told that silly joke tonight," or "I'm grateful for the warmth of the coffee cup in my hands this morning while I watched the sunrise." Specificity forces you out of abstract thinking and into the vivid reality of your lived experience, making the feeling of gratitude far more potent and real. This isn't about ignoring life's difficulties. It is about refusing to allow those difficulties to blind you to the good that persistently exists alongside them. So let's put this into practice right now. I want you to pause and identify with precise detail 3 things you can be genuinely grateful for in this very moment. It could be the device that allows you to listen to this, the comfort of the chair you're sitting in, or the simple fact that you have the curiosity and desire to improve your life through philosophy. Name them, feel the weight of that appreciation. This is you right now, actively forging your shield. What does your evening look like after the screens go dark? Not the frantic last-minute scroll through emails or the passive consumption of a streaming show until your eyes get heavy, but a true, intentional disconnection. For many of us, the glow of a device is the last light we see before sleep, and its constant stream of information is the background noise that lulls us into a restless state. This habitual tethering prevents the mind from doing its most vital nighttime work, processing the day, releasing tension, and preparing for true rest. The 16th shift addresses this directly by introducing the practice of a digital sunset, a fixed, non-negotiable time each evening when you power down your devices and consciously create a space free from digital stimuli. This is not a punishment or a Luddite rejection of technology. It is a profound act of Stoic discipline, a deliberate reclaiming of your attention and your inner quiet from the endless pull of external demands. It is about exercising your power over your impulses rather than letting them dictate your final waking moments. Seneca, in his essay on the shortness of life, offers piercing insight that is shockingly relevant to our modern evening habits. He chastises those who are careless with their leisure time, writing, "No one will bring back the years, no one will restore you to yourself. Life will follow the path it began to take, and will neither reverse nor check its course." He saw that the hours we consider downtime are often the most carelessly squandered, frittered away on distractions that leave us more drained than restored. He advised guarding this time fiercely, for it is in these unhurried moments that we actually live a life reflective of our own choices, not one of reaction. A digital sunset is the practical application of this wisdom. It is you declaring that the final hours of your day belong to you, your family, your thoughts, and your rest, not to a corporation's algorithm or the churn of the 24-hour news cycle. You are placing a boundary around your peace, a temporal wall that protects the sanctity of your inner citadel at its most vulnerable time. the tangible benefits of this practice ripple through every aspect of your night and the following morning. The most immediate is the dramatic improvement in sleep quality. The blue light emitted from screens suppresses melatonin production, the hormone essential for regulating sleep cycles. By removing this artificial stimulus, you allow your body's natural rhythms to take over, leading to deeper, more restorative sleep. But the benefits extend far beyond the biological. Psychologically, this screen-free buffer zone creates the mental space necessary for the evening audit we discussed earlier. Without the distracting buzz of a television or the addictive pull of a social feed, your mind is free to gently sift through the events of the day, to journal, to read a physical book that encourages deeper thought, or to simply sit in quiet conversation with those you share your home with. This transition period allows the nervous system to downshift from the high alert state of constant information processing to a calmer, more reflective mode. You are not abruptly jolting your mind from the chaos of the world into unconsciousness. You are guiding it gently toward rest, ensuring you don't carry the day's anxieties and distractions with you into your dreams. To experience this shift, your challenge is to implement a digital sunset for just one single evening. Choose a time that feels ambitious but achievable, perhaps 60 or 90 minutes before your intended bedtime. When that hour arrives, the rule is simple. All non-essential screens are powered down and put away. This means phones on chargers in another room, laptops closed, and televisions off. You might initially feel a sense of restlessness or boredom. This is your mind detoxing from its dependence on constant stimulation. Lean into that discomfort. This is where the magic happens. In that newly created quiet, what will you discover? Perhaps you'll finally pick up that novel gathering dust on your shelf. You might find yourself engaging in a long, meandering conversation with your partner without the distraction of a phone in your hand. You could choose to simply sit by a window with a cup of tea, observing the night sky and allowing your thoughts to settle naturally. This one evening is an experiment in reacquainting yourself with your own company without a digital intermediary. Notice how you feel as you climb into bed with a quiet mind instead of a buzzing one. Observe the quality of your sleep and the clarity of your first thoughts upon waking. This single act of evening discipline is a powerful vote for your vision, proving that your attention is yours to command. How often do you find yourself entering a conversation not to listen, but to wait for your turn to speak? How often do you assume you already know the answer, the outcome, or the other person's point of view before they've even finished their sentence? This automatic posture of knowing is a massive source of internal noise because it builds a wall between you and reality, filtering every new experience through the static of your preconceptions. The 17th shift invites you to dismantle that wall by adopting a learner's mindset, trading the heavy armor of certainty for the light, open curiosity of a perpetual student. This is about far more than just acquiring new facts. It's a fundamental reorientation of your relationship with the world, grounded in the profound Stoic virtue of humility. The Stoics understood that true wisdom begins with the honest admission of how little we actually know. It is the ego that insists on having all the answers, that gets defensive when challenged, and that sees every disagreement as a threat. The pursuit of wisdom, however, requires the courage to say, "I don't know," and the genuine desire to find out. This mindset is your most powerful filter for social noise, because it transforms potential conflicts into opportunities for growth and criticism into valuable data. Epictetus, who dedicated his life to teaching, placed this idea at the very foundation of philosophy. He offered a simple but devastatingly accurate diagnosis. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows. This single sentence cuts to the heart of the matter. If you approach a situation, a book, or a person with the closed assumption that you have nothing to learn, you have effectively rendered yourself unteachable. Your mind becomes a closed system, recycling the same old thoughts and growing stale. The beginner's mind, by contrast, is open and receptive. It sees the world with fresh eyes, always asking, "What can this teach me?" Instead of, "How does this confirm what I already believe?" This doesn't mean abandoning your core principles or becoming a pushover for every new opinion. It means holding your current understanding lightly, always being willing to test it against new evidence and refine it with deeper insight. Your vision becomes unshakable not because it is rigid and inflexible, but because it is alive, adaptable, and constantly being honed by a humble engagement with reality. You can see this shift play out dramatically in everyday conversations. Imagine two different ways to receive constructive feedback on a project you've completed. The defensive, knowing mindset immediately puts up guard. The internal monologue is a torrent of justification. They just don't get it. They missed the point. "I already tried that and it didn't work." This reaction is all about protecting the ego, and it effectively shuts down any possibility of learning or improvement. The external words become nothing but noise to be deflected. Now contrast that with the curious, learning mindset. Upon hearing the same feedback, this mindset gets quietly interested. It asks questions with genuine openness. "That's an interesting perspective. Can you tell me more about what gave you that impression?" Or, "I want to make sure I understand. Are you saying the main issue is with the pacing or with the clarity of the conclusion?" This approach does not mean automatically agreeing with everything. It means seeking first to fully understand the critique on its own terms before evaluating it. In doing so, you might discover a blind spot you never knew you had, or you might solidify your original choice with even greater conviction, but now for better reasons. One reaction creates friction and stagnation, the other creates connection and growth. This week, your reflective task is to consciously choose one topic or area where you typically hold a strong, fixed opinion. It could be a political issue, a style of art you've always dismissed, a parenting philosophy you disagree with, or even a colleague's way of working that irritates you. Your challenge is not to change your opinion, but to temporarily suspend it. For just 30 minutes, intentionally seek out a well-reasoned, respectful explanation of the opposing viewpoint. Listen to a podcast episode, read an article, or watch a documentary made by someone who intelligently defends the position you usually oppose. Your only goal is to understand their reasoning as clearly and fairly as you can. Don't do this to argue, do it to comprehend. See if you can identify the core values or concerns that underlie their perspective, even if you disagree with their conclusions. This exercise is like weightlifting for your humility and intellectual flexibility. It stretches your capacity for empathy and ensures that your convictions are built on a foundation of genuine understanding, not just the echo of your own unexamined thoughts. Where does the effort you expend actually create meaningful change in your life and the lives of others? It's a question that can instantly reveal whether you are operating from a place of empowered action or dissipated frustration. So much of our energy is siphoned off by concerns that are so vast, so systemic, or so far outside our personal reach that our efforts feel like shouting into a hurricane, exhausting and ultimately pointless. The 18th shift is about ending that cycle of wasteful expenditure and redirecting your finite energy into a domain where it can actually build, create, and influence. This is the practice of consciously strengthening your circle of influence, a concept that finds its roots in the Stoic insistence on focusing only on what is within our power. It's about moving from a state of passive concern about the world's problems to a state of active, effective engagement with the corner of the world you can actually touch. Marcus Aurelius offered a beautifully simple directive for this, one that cuts through the complexity of modern life. He wrote, "Let every action you perform be the last action of your life." Be free from all aimlessness and from all passion which is contrary to nature's law, and be free from hypocrisy and self-love and dissatisfaction with your allotted share. The profound wisdom here is in the focus on the action directly in front of you, performed with excellence and integrity. He isn't telling you to ignore the wider world, but to understand that your primary duty, your most powerful point of leverage, is always the task, the interaction, the project that is within your immediate sphere. Changing the world doesn't start with a grand, abstract plan. It starts with doing what is in front of you right now exceptionally well. This is the essence of a strong circle of influence. It is built one intentional, high-quality action at a time. To see the stark difference between wasted and wisely invested effort, consider a practical comparison. Imagine two people who are equally concerned about the direction of their community. The first person spends hours each day consuming outrage-inducing news about national politics, arguing with strangers in online comment sections, and sharing articles that confirm a sense of powerlessness and despair. At the end of the day, they are emotionally drained, their mood is sour, and their actual community is no better for their efforts. Their circle of concern is massive, but their circle of influence remains tiny because their energy is sprayed outward into a void they cannot affect. Now consider the second person. They limit their consumption of national news and instead they identify a local need. They notice a struggling young person in their network and decide to offer an hour of mentoring each week. They volunteer one Saturday a month with a neighborhood clean-up crew. They make a point to support a local business owner with their patronage and encouragement. This person's circle of concern might be smaller on a map, but their circle of influence is tangible and growing. Their energy is focused like a laser beam, and with every action, they can actually see the positive change they are creating. They are not just worrying about the world, they are actively building a better piece of it. This shift requires a ruthless audit of where your own time, attention, and emotional resources are currently going. It asks you to look at your weekly activities and honestly categorize them. Does this activity expand my influence and allow me to create something positive, or does it simply drain my energy while leaving me feeling powerless? The goal is to gradually shift the balance, consciously pulling energy from the vast, uncontrollable circle of concern and reinvesting it into the manageable, impactful circle of influence. This is how you turn anxiety into agency and noise into tangible results. Your vision gains traction not when you dream bigger dreams, but when you focus your effort on a smaller, more fertile patch of ground. So let's make this immediately practical. Your reflective task is to identify one single, specific area where you can exert a positive influence this very week. Don't make it grandiose, make it real. Perhaps it's within your own home, committing to one device-free, fully present conversation with your partner each evening. Maybe it's at work, offering genuine, specific praise to a colleague who did good work, or taking on a small task to ease your team's burden. It could be in your local community, picking up litter on your regular walk, or writing a thank you note to a librarian or a crossing guard. The scale is irrelevant, the intention is everything. Choose one action that is undeniably within your control and that will undeniably make one small part of your world a slightly better place. Execute it with the full focus that Marcus Aurelius described, as if it were the most important task in the world, because in that moment, for that corner of your existence, it is. Solitude is not loneliness, it's conversation with yourself. In a world that constantly pulls our attention outward toward the voices and validation of others, solitude is the deliberate act of turning that attention inward to the only voice that truly defines your path. This is not about isolation or rejecting the world. It is about building a relationship with the one person you are guaranteed to spend your entire life with, you. The Stoics saw this self-communion not as a luxury, but as a non-negotiable requirement for a life of clarity and integrity. It is in these quiet spaces, free from the performance and opinions of others, that you can finally hear your own thoughts, untangle your true desires from conditioned wants, and reconnect with the core principles that form your unshakable vision. Without regular solitude, your inner compass has no chance to recalibrate, and you risk living a life that is merely a reflection of everyone else's expectations. Seneca, in his moral letters to Lucilius, championed this practice with profound insight. He wrote, "Be wary of the crowd, for it is easy to be infected by the crowd. You must withdraw into yourself, for an untroubled spirit is a fortress." He wasn't advising a permanent retreat from society, but rather the creation of a daily sanctuary where you could detox from the social contagion of groupthink, fear, and ambition. He believed that only in this state of withdrawal could you properly examine your judgments, question your impulses, and ensure that your actions were stemming from your own virtuous character, and not from a mindless mimicry of the people around you. This is the ultimate purpose of Stoic solitude, to become so comfortable and clear in your own company that the applause or criticism of the external world simply loses its power to destabilize you. Your sense of self becomes internally generated, making you immune to the fickle winds of popular opinion. To experience the transformative power of this, consider a simple, practical example: a daily solo walk with no agenda other than to be with your own thoughts. Leave your phone behind, or if you must take it for safety, keep it powered off in your pocket. As you walk, resist the urge to distract yourself with music or podcasts. Instead, let your mind wander. At first, it might feel uncomfortable. You might be besieged by a flood of to-do lists, replay old conversations, or feel a strange urge to check for notifications. This is the mental static that solitude is designed to clear. Don't fight it, just observe it. Then, gently guide your awareness to your senses, the rhythm of your breath, the feeling of the ground beneath your feet, the sounds of the environment around you. As the initial noise settles, deeper thoughts and questions will begin to surface, the ones that are usually drowned out by the daily grind. You might gain sudden clarity on a problem that's been bothering you, or simply reconnect with a feeling of calm you didn't realize you were missing. This isn't a wasted hour, it is an investment in your mental clarity that will pay dividends in focused action for the rest of your day. This week, your challenge is to consciously schedule just 30 minutes of intentional solitude. It doesn't have to be a walk. It could be sitting quietly in a room with a journal, sipping tea on your porch before anyone else is awake, or even just closing your office door for a half hour of uninterrupted thought. The activity is less important than the intention: to create a space where you are free from external input and can simply listen to the conversation happening within. This small but powerful act is a direct declaration that your inner world matters, that your own thoughts are worth hearing, and that your vision deserves the quiet space it needs to grow strong and clear. What if every single obstacle you've ever faced, every setback, every moment of frustration, was not a deviation from your path, but an essential part of it? This is the radical proposition at the heart of the 20th Quiet Life Shift, a concept the Stoics called amor fati, a Latin phrase that translates to a love of one's fate. This is not passive resignation or a suggestion to simply grit your teeth and endure hardship. It is an active, enthusiastic embrace of everything life brings you: the smooth and the rough, the praise and the criticism, the victory and the defeat, as necessary and beneficial raw material for crafting a life of wisdom and strength. It is the decision to stop fighting reality and to start seeing it as your greatest collaborator. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who faced unimaginable personal and political turmoil, rooted his resilience in this very idea. He wrote in his private journal, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. This is the essence of amor fati." You can choose to see the events of your life as random attacks, or you can choose to see yourself as that fire, capable of transforming every experience, no matter how difficult, into fuel for your own light and warmth. This philosophy finds a powerful echo in the later work of Friedrich Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by Stoic thought. He famously declared, "My formula for greatness in a human being is amor fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. Not merely bear what is necessary, still less conceal it, but love it. This is the ultimate shift from resistance to acceptance, and then from acceptance to genuine affection." It's the understanding that a life without challenge would be like a muscle without resistance. It would atrophy. The very things we instinctively avoid and complain about are the weights that strengthen our character. A difficult conversation you're avoiding is not an inconvenience. It's a drill for practicing courage. A project that fails spectacularly is not a waste of time. It's a masterclass in what doesn't work, providing invaluable data for your next attempt. A period of illness is not just a physical trial. It's a forced slowdown that can reacquaint you with the profound value of simple health and a quiet day. Amor fati asks you to look at the entirety of your life and say, yes, even that part, especially that part, thank you for that part. To see how this works in practice, let's take a common modern setback: missing out on a promotion you worked incredibly hard for. The default, noisy reaction is a storm of bitterness, self-doubt, and resentment toward the person who got the job. You might spend weeks replaying the scenario, feeling like a victim of unfairness, and allowing this single event to color your entire perception of your career and your worth. Now apply amor fati. Instead of rejecting this outcome, you lean into it with courageous curiosity. You ask yourself, if this was exactly what I needed, what could the hidden gift be? Perhaps staying in your current role for another year allows you to master a crucial skill you would have neglected in the new position. Maybe it forces you to honestly reevaluate if you're even on the right career path, sparking a journey toward work that truly aligns with your values. It could be that the experience of rejection builds a resilience in you that later allows you to handle an even greater challenge with a grace you didn't know you possessed. The event itself doesn't change, but your relationship to it transforms completely. It is no longer a malicious obstacle blocking your path. It becomes a difficult but wise teacher, redirecting you toward a better version of your journey. This week, your reflective task is to practice this alchemy on a current difficulty. Bring to mind one specific challenge you are facing right now. It could be a financial pressure, a relational tension, a creative block, or a health issue. Now, I want you to deliberately reframe it using the language of amor fati. Complete this sentence for yourself. I love this challenge because it is teaching me, or this difficulty is a gift because it is forcing me to develop. Be specific. If it's a financial pinch, perhaps it's teaching you resourcefulness and helping you distinguish between wants and true needs. If it's a disagreement with a loved one, maybe it's a gift because it's revealing a communication pattern that needs healing, offering a chance for a deeper connection on the other side of the conflict. This isn't about pretending the difficulty is pleasant. It's about recognizing that its value isn't in its pleasure, but in its power to forge within you a strength, a clarity, or a compassion that a life of pure ease never could. This is how you turn the lead of circumstance into the gold of character. How many small, insignificant choices did you make between waking up this morning and starting your day? What to wear, what to eat for breakfast, which route to take, which task to tackle first? The constant stream of micro-decisions might seem harmless, but each one draws from the same finite well of your mental and emotional energy. By the time you face a choice that truly matters, a creative problem that requires deep thought, a difficult conversation that demands patience and empathy, a strategic decision about your future, you may find your mental reserves are already depleted, leaving you irritable, impulsive, or simply unable to focus. This phenomenon is known as decision fatigue, and the Stoics understood its corrosive effect on our capacity for virtue and clear judgment centuries before it had a name. Their philosophy provides a powerful antidote, a ruthless simplification of the trivial to preserve your finest attention for the essential. Seneca, in his letters, frequently warned against complicating one's life with unnecessary burdens. He observed that many people are forced to be restless by a wretchedness that is truly epic, not because of genuine hardship, but because they have layered their lives with endless complications and choices that serve no real purpose. He advised his friend Lucilius to reduce the things that bother you, arguing that a cluttered external life inevitably leads to a cluttered mind. For the Stoic, the goal is not to have control over every minor detail, but to exercise conscious control over what you allow to demand your attention. Every decision you can eliminate, automate, or simplify is a victory for your future self, freeing up cognitive bandwidth for the pursuits that actually align with your vision: deep work, meaningful connection, and thoughtful reflection. This is not about fostering rigidity, but about creating intentional space for flexibility where it counts. Consider the mental contrast between two different approaches to a morning. One person stands before a closet overflowing with options, agonizing over which shirt projects the right image, which pair of shoes matches best, spending 15 precious minutes in a state of low-grade anxiety before they've even had their coffee. They then open the refrigerator to a similar array of possibilities and face the same draining process for breakfast. By the time they leave the house, they have already made dozens of inconsequential choices, and their willpower is significantly diminished. Now imagine a different approach inspired by the Stoic value of simplicity. This person has a simple, defined wardrobe, perhaps a variation of a uniform like dark trousers and a few solid colored shirts. The decision of what to wear is eliminated before the day even begins. Breakfast is similarly streamlined. Maybe it's the same healthy oatmeal with berries every single morning. These routines aren't boring, they are liberating. The mental energy that was once consumed by these trivialities is now banked, available for tackling a complex project at work, responding with grace to a child's frustration, or having the presence of mind to notice a moment of beauty on the walk to the office. This practice of reducing decision fatigue extends far beyond your morning routine. It applies to your finances, automating bill payments and savings contributions, so you don't have to decide to be responsible each month. It applies to your nutrition, planning a week's meals in one sitting, so you're not deciding what's for dinner when you're tired and hungry, and most likely to make a poor choice. It applies to your work, scheduling deep work blocks for your most important tasks first thing in the day, so you don't waste energy deciding what to do next. Each of these simplifications is a small declaration of sovereignty over your attention. You are proactively designing your environment to support your goals, rather than reacting to a constant barrage of demands on your focus. To integrate this shift, your task is to conduct a brief audit of your own decision landscape. Where does your mental energy leak out on the inconsequential? This week, choose one single area where choice consistently drains you without adding any real value to your life. It might be the daily "what's for dinner" dilemma, the endless scroll through streaming services to find something to watch, or the constant reprioritization of a chaotic to-do list. Now, create a simple system to eliminate that decision. For dinners, you could create a repeating 3-week meal plan and a corresponding automated grocery delivery order. For entertainment, you could keep a short list of highly rated films or books you genuinely want to experience and choose from that pre-vetted list instead of the entire internet. For your tasks, you could end each day by defining the one most important thing you will accomplish tomorrow, making that your non-negotiable first action. The specific system matters less than the intention behind it, to deliberately clear the mental clutter, creating a quiet and spacious mind ready to engage with what truly matters. A strong body supports a resilient mind. This wasn't just a fitness motto for the Stoics. It was a foundational principle of their entire philosophy. They understood something that modern science is only now confirming. The division between mind and body is an illusion. Your physical state directly shapes your mental capacity for focus, discipline, and endurance. The Roman Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus was particularly vocal on this point, arguing that physical training was absolutely essential for anyone serious about practicing philosophy. He made a powerful comparison, stating, "Just as it is necessary to exercise the body to maintain its health and strength, so too must one exercise the soul to maintain its noble qualities." For Rufus, neglecting the body was akin to neglecting your character. Both required consistent, challenging practice to remain strong and functional. This is the core of what we might call physical stoicism, the deliberate use of bodily discipline, not for vanity or performance, but as a direct training ground for your willpower and your ability to endure life's inevitable hardships without crumbling. Think of your willpower not as an abstract concept, but as a physical muscle. If you never challenge that muscle, if you always choose the path of least physical resistance, the elevator over the stairs, the comfort of the couch over the invigoration of a walk, the immediate gratification of a snack over the sustained energy of a nutritious meal, that muscle of resolve grows weak and flabby. Then, when a true mental or emotional challenge arises, you find you have no strength to meet it. You are easily overwhelmed by frustration, quick to surrender to distraction, and incapable of tolerating even minor discomfort. Physical stoicism is the practice of intentionally placing manageable stress on the body to strengthen that muscle of mental resolve. Every time you choose to complete your workout when you feel tired, every time you opt for water over soda, every time you take the colder shower, you are not just doing something for your physique. You are sending a powerful message to your deepest self. I am in command here. My mind decides and my body follows. This is the ultimate integration of the Stoic dichotomy of control. You are mastering what is within your power, your physical actions and reactions, to become more resilient against what is not. The practices themselves are beautifully simple and require no special equipment or memberships. The goal is not to become an elite athlete, but to become a more disciplined human being. A powerful example is the practice of moderate fasting. This isn't about drastic calorie restriction for weight loss. It's about occasionally experiencing the sensation of hunger and choosing to observe it with calm curiosity rather than immediately rushing to satisfy it. You might decide to delay your breakfast by an hour or to have a simple, light meal instead of a heavy one. In that space, you confront a primal urge and prove to yourself that you can remain composed and intentional. Similarly, engaging in regular, moderate exercise, a brisk walk, a session of bodyweight exercises, a bike ride, is a practice in completing a chosen task despite internal resistance. When your mind starts whispering excuses to quit halfway through, and you consciously choose to continue, you are rehearsing for all those future moments when you'll want to quit on an important project, a difficult conversation, or a personal goal. The physical act becomes a metaphor and a training drill for every form of perseverance. Your challenge now is to move this from an interesting idea to a lived experience. This week, I want you to select one single, manageable physical challenge to undertake. It should be simple, safe, and symbolic. Perhaps it's committing to a 15-minute walk every day, rain or shine. Maybe it's choosing to take the stairs at work instead of the elevator for the entire week. It could be opting for a cold shower for the final 60 seconds of your morning routine. The specific activity matters far less than the intention behind it. As you do it, pay close attention not to the physical sensation, but to the mental dialogue. Notice the part of you that complains, that seeks comfort, that wants to stop. Then, observe the quieter, stronger part that chooses to continue. That is your inner Stoic, the commander of your citadel, growing stronger with every rep, every step, every moment of chosen discomfort. This is how you build a foundation of resilience that no amount of social noise can ever shake. When you listen to another person, is your mind already formulating your reply, crafting a counterargument, or searching for a story of your own to share? Or are you offering them the rare and profound gift of your complete, undivided attention? This common but deeply ingrained habit of listening to respond rather than to understand is a massive generator of conversational noise. It turns dialogue into a subtle competition, a battle of wits where the goal is not connection but victory or validation. The 23rd shift invites you to end this internal chatter by practicing deep listening, transforming your interactions from self-focused performances into genuine, stoic exercises in empathy and presence. This is about more than just being polite. It's a disciplined practice of quieting your own ego to truly receive another human being, making their thoughts and feelings the sole object of your focus for a few precious moments. Epictetus, who spent his life teaching the art of living, placed immense importance on this skill. He offered a piercingly simple guideline. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. This was not a quaint proverb about being talkative. It was a practical instruction on the proper order of operations for meaningful human connection. To listen first and thoroughly is to act with justice toward the person speaking. It acknowledges their inherent worth and grants them the space to be fully heard. It is also an act of profound humility, a recognition that you might have something to learn, that your initial perspective might be incomplete, and that the other person's reality is just as valid and complex as your own. In the Stoic framework, this practice directly strengthens your virtue. It cultivates patience by requiring you to hold your impulse to interrupt. It fosters courage by allowing you to sit with perspectives that might challenge your own without immediately becoming defensive. And it is the very essence of justice, giving the other person what they are due, your full attention. To see the stark difference this shift makes, let's paint a picture of 2 conversations. In the first, 2 friends are catching up. One begins to share a struggle they're having at work. Almost immediately, the listener's eyes flicker with recognition, and they jump in. "Oh, I know exactly what you mean. The same thing happened to me last month," and they proceed to launch into their own longer story. The original speaker's problem is left hanging, half expressed, and the conversation swiftly becomes about the listener's experience. The speaker feels unheard, and the opportunity for genuine support and understanding is lost. Now, imagine the deep listening alternative. The same friend shares their work struggle. The listener maintains soft eye contact, nods gently to show they are tracking, and when the friend finishes, they don't immediately fill the silence. They might sit with it for a moment, then offer a reflective question. That sounds incredibly frustrating. What part of that situation has been the most difficult for you to navigate? This response does not insert the listener's ego into the center of the exchange. It keeps the focus entirely on the speaker, making them feel seen, validated, and safe to explore their own feelings more deeply. The conversation becomes an act of co-discovery rather than a duel of anecdotes. This kind of listening requires you to manage your own internal Stoic citadel in real time. As the other person speaks, your own mind will inevitably generate reactions, judgments, and personal memories. The discipline is to notice these thoughts without being captured by them, to let them pass through your awareness like clouds in the sky without latching onto them and building your response. Your only job is to receive. You are practicing the dichotomy of control in a social setting. You cannot control what the other person says, but you have complete control over how you receive it, with openness and curiosity, or with a closed, prepared rebuttal. This practice systematically drains the drama and misunderstanding from your relationships, replacing reactive noise with a quiet, powerful space for mutual respect. Your challenge is to make this shift tangible today. In your very next conversation, whether it's with a colleague, your child, a partner, or a cashier, commit to practicing deep listening for just the first 2 minutes. Your only goal is to understand their perspective as fully as possible. Consciously quiet your internal monologue. Resist the urge to plan your response while they are still talking. Instead, focus all your energy on their words, their tone, and their body language. When they finish, pause before you speak. See if you can summarize what you heard them say before you introduce your own thoughts. You might be astonished at what you discover when you truly tune in to the frequency of another person's reality, and how this simple act of presence can turn down the volume on the world's noise and amplify the signal of true human connection. Without a clear moral compass, the relentless noise of the world will inevitably dictate your direction, pushing you toward goals and reactions that are not truly your own. This is why the 24th shift is perhaps the most foundational of them all, the deliberate clarification of your personal virtues. While many philosophical systems offer complex rules for living, Stoicism simplifies the entire endeavor into a single, powerful aim: to live a life of virtue. Not virtue in a rigid, moralistic sense, but virtue as the expression of your highest character, the consistent alignment of your actions with wisdom, justice, courage, and self-discipline, regardless of the external chaos swirling around you. Your virtues are your internal operating system. They are the code that runs in the background of every decision, ensuring that even when you are buffeted by strong emotions or social pressure, your choices remain congruent with the person you have decided to be. Marcus Aurelius, in the private pages of his journal, constantly returned to the 4 cardinal virtues as his guiding stars. He wrote, "If at some point in your life you should come across anything better than justice, honesty, self-control, courage, than a mind satisfied that it has succeeded in enabling you to act rationally, and satisfied to accept what's beyond its control, if you see anything better than that, embrace it without reservations." For him, these were not abstract ideals but practical tools for daily navigation. Wisdom is the virtue of seeing the world clearly and making sound judgments. Justice is the commitment to fairness in your dealings with others. Courage is the willingness to face difficulty, whether physical or emotional, in pursuit of what is right. And self-discipline is the mastery of your own impulses and desires. By defining these for yourself, you create a filter so powerful that it can instantly clarify any confusing or noisy situation. When you are unsure of what to do, you no longer need to search for a complex answer. You can simply ask, what would a wise, just, courageous, and disciplined person do here? To see how this works in the messiness of daily life, consider a practical example rooted in the virtue of justice. Imagine you are in a meeting at work, and a colleague presents an idea that you know was originally suggested by a more junior, quieter member of the team who isn't present. The social noise might urge you to stay silent to avoid causing awkwardness, to not rock the boat to maintain your own standing. But if you have clearly defined justice as a core virtue you wish to embody, your path becomes clear, if not easy. You might choose to speak up not with accusation but with clarity. That's a great point, and it reminds me of the suggestion Sarah made last week. I think we should build on her idea and make sure she's looped into this discussion. This action isn't about being a hero, it's about being just. It aligns your action with your internal compass, and in doing so, it cuts through the noise of office politics and social anxiety. The outcome, whether your colleague is annoyed or grateful, is outside your control, but the integrity of your action is not. You have chosen virtue over convenience. Your reflective task is to make this shift tangible and personal. Take a moment to write down one single virtue you want to consciously embody more fully in the coming week. Don't feel you must adopt all 4 cardinal virtues at once. Choose the one that feels most needed in your life right now. Perhaps it is courage to have that difficult conversation you've been avoiding. Maybe it is self-discipline to protect your deep work time without apology. It could be wisdom to spend more time in reflection before making pronouncements. Write it down on a small piece of paper or a note in your phone. Keep this word present. Before you enter a meeting, glance at it. When you feel yourself reacting to a provocation, recall it. This one clarified virtue will act as a lens, bringing your actions into a sharper, quieter focus and ensuring that your direction comes from within, no matter how loud the world becomes. What are you clinging to right now that is already in the process of changing? It might be a relationship dynamic you're trying to freeze in place, a career achievement you fear losing its shine, or even the physical ability you currently enjoy but know won't last forever. This instinct to grasp, to hold on tightly to the people, situations, and conditions we cherish, is one of our deepest sources of suffering. We treat the ever-flowing river of life as if it were a frozen pond, and then we are shocked and heartbroken when the ice inevitably cracks and the current carries things away. The 25th shift moves us from this exhausting resistance to a graceful acceptance, inviting us to embrace impermanence not as a threat, but as the fundamental, neutral law of nature that it is. This is about seeing change not as life's disruptive exception, but as its only constant rule. The Stoics didn't just acknowledge this truth, they built their entire worldview upon it. They looked at the cosmos and saw a universe in a state of perpetual, beautiful flux. The pre-Socratic philosopher Heraclitus, who heavily influenced Stoic thought, captured this with his famous axiom, "No man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man." This isn't a poetic metaphor for personal growth, it is a literal, physical reality. Every cell in your body is different from what it was 7 years ago. The person you loved a decade ago is not the same person today, and neither are you. Marcus Aurelius meditated on this constantly, using it as a tool to drain situations of their emotional charge. He wrote in his private journal, "Keep in mind that everything that exists is already fraying at the edges and in transition, in the process of decomposition or dispersal, or else that everything was born to die." He wasn't being morbid, he was practicing a radical form of realism to achieve equanimity. By accepting the terminal fragility of all things upfront, he could appreciate them more fully while they lasted, without the corrosive anxiety of trying to make them last forever. To understand how this shift works in practice, let's contrast two different mindsets facing the same inevitable change. Imagine two people who both learn their favorite local coffee shop, a place filled with years of personal memories, is closing its doors for good. The first person, operating from a place of resistance to impermanence, falls into a spiral of sadness and frustration. They complain about the loss, rage against the new condo development moving in, and spend weeks feeling a genuine sense of grief and irritation every time they pass the empty storefront. Their attachment to the way things were actively poisons their experience of the way things are. Now, consider the second person who has practiced embracing impermanence. They feel the same initial pang of sadness. This is not about suppressing emotion, but they quickly move to acceptance. They think, nothing is meant to last forever. What a gift it was to have this place for as long as we did. They might make a point to go for one last coffee, to sincerely thank the owners, and to fully savor the final experience. They hold the memory lightly, with gratitude, not with a white-knuckled grip. They understand that the end of the shop's story doesn't erase the beautiful chapters they were a part of. One person suffers because they are fighting reality. The other finds peace because they are flowing with it. This acceptance is the ultimate liberator from the anxiety of loss. So much of our mental noise is generated by the terrified anticipation of future change, the fear that we will lose our health, our loved ones, our status, or our comfort. But when you truly internalize that everything is temporary, that fear begins to lose its power. You start to understand that your security was never meant to be found in the permanence of your external circumstances, which are inherently unstable. Your true, unshakable foundation can only be built within your own character and your ability to meet change with grace. You can love your partner deeply without demanding that they never change. You can enjoy your professional success without attaching your entire self-worth to a title that could be gone tomorrow. You can cherish your vibrant health while understanding that caring for your body is an act of stewardship for a temporary vessel, not a guarantee against its eventual decline. This is not a life of passive nihilism. It is a life of intense, focused appreciation for the present moment, precisely because you know it is fleeting. Your task now is to bring this abstract philosophy down to the concrete reality of your own life. Bring to mind one single thing you are holding onto a little too tightly. It doesn't have to be a monumental source of anxiety. Sometimes the smallest attachments are the best place to practice. Perhaps it's the expectation that your weekly routines will always stay the same, or the desire for your children to remain at their current age forever, or even your attachment to a particular version of your own identity. Now, I want you to consciously loosen your grip just a little. Acknowledge out loud or in writing the simple truth: this will not last forever. Say it not with sadness, but with the clear-eyed understanding of a scientist observing a natural law. Then make a deliberate choice to appreciate it more fully because of its temporary nature. If it's your child's current age, instead of feeling sad that it's passing, let that awareness prompt you to be 10% more present during your next interaction with them. If it's a routine, savor the familiarity of it today, knowing that change will come and you will adapt. This is the active practice of amor fati, loving your fate applied to the passage of time itself. You are not giving up on what you love. You are learning to love it in the only way it can truly be loved, freely, without the desperate and impossible demand for it to stay the same. Impatience is not just a minor character flaw. It is a fundamental resistance to the natural timing of things, a quiet rebellion against the pace at which reality unfolds. We live in a world engineered for immediacy, where a 2-second delay in a video loading can feel like an eternity and next-day delivery has become the baseline expectation. This constant conditioning warps our perception of how growth, mastery, and meaningful change actually occur, which is almost always slowly, non-linearly, and with inevitable setbacks. The Stoics reframed this entire dynamic. They did not see patience as passive waiting. They saw it as an active, formidable power, a disciplined endurance that transforms every delay and obstacle from a frustration into a training ground for the soul. It is the practiced ability to align your inner rhythm with the often slower tempo of genuine progress, trusting that the most substantial things in life cannot be rushed. Seneca, who faced exile, chronic illness, and the turbulent politics of Nero's court, wrote extensively about the strength found in endurance. In his essay on the shortness of life, he makes a crucial distinction. There is a difference between lasting long and existing long. To merely exist is to be impatient, to feverishly rush through days without depth, constantly straining for the next thing. To last long, in the Stoic sense, is to cultivate a patient depth of character that can withstand the pressures of time without crumbling. He advised, we must indulge the mind and from time to time allow it the leisure which is its food and strength. This leisure is not laziness, it is the patient space required for integration and understanding. It is the trust that some processes, especially those within us, have their own schedule and cannot be forced. Patience, therefore, becomes a form of intelligence, the wisdom to know when to push and when to allow, when to act and when to let the results mature in their own time. Consider the stark contrast between two approaches to a significant goal, like mastering a new skill or building a business. The impatient approach is frantic and effortful. It demands immediate results, measures progress in days, and is quickly derailed by the smallest obstacle. This person works in bursts of intense energy fueled by the desire for a quick payoff, followed by crashes of despair when that payoff doesn't arrive. Their energy is scattered, their focus is on the uncontrollable outcome, and their journey is a roller coaster of anxiety and disappointment. They are trying to grow a tree by constantly yanking on the sapling to make it taller. Now observe the patient, Stoic approach. This person focuses on the process itself with calm persistence. They understand that mastery is the cumulative result of small, consistent actions taken day after day, regardless of visible progress. They embrace obstacles as necessary drills that strengthen their resolve and creativity. A setback is not a signal to quit. It is simply data, feedback to be incorporated into the next deliberate action. Their energy is focused, their attention is on the controllable input, and their journey is characterized by a steady, unwavering forward motion. They water the tree, ensure it gets enough sun, and protect it from pests, trusting in its innate ability to grow. This week, I invite you to consciously reframe one single situation in your life as a designated patience dojo, a training ground for this specific strength. Identify a recurring source of impatience, perhaps your daily commute, the slow progress of a personal project, or the pace at which a relationship is healing. Your reflective task is not to eliminate the feeling of impatience when it arises, but to meet it with a new response. When you feel that familiar heat of frustration begin to build, pause. Take one deep breath and silently acknowledge the reality. This is taking as long as it is taking. My struggle against that fact is the only true source of my suffering right now. Then consciously choose one small action that aligns with steady progress rather than frantic effort. If it's the commute, perhaps you use that time to listen to an audiobook that develops your mind, transforming lost time into invested time. If it's the project, maybe you commit to just 15 minutes of focused work, valuing the consistency of the effort over the magnitude of the result. In that conscious choice, you are no longer a victim of time. You are a student of it, patiently forging the power that comes from unwavering persistence. When is a retreat the wisest possible advance? In a culture that relentlessly celebrates hustle, constant engagement, and being always on, the very idea of stepping back can feel like a failure, a sign of weakness or surrender. The Stoics, however, saw this through a completely different lens. For them, strategic withdrawal was not an act of cowardice but one of supreme intelligence and strength, a conscious, temporary disengagement from the battlefield of daily distractions to return to the command center of your own mind and regain a clear view of the entire war. This is not running away from your duties. It is the essential practice that ensures you can perform them with wisdom and precision rather than with frazzled, reactive exhaustion. Seneca, who advised his friend Lucilius from the hectic heart of the Roman Empire, was a fierce advocate for this vital practice. He wrote, "You must withdraw into yourself as much as you can. Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving. The process is a mutual one, for people learn while they teach." Notice the order. The first and most crucial command is to withdraw into yourself. This is the foundation. You cannot bring value to others. You cannot teach or lead effectively if your own inner well is muddied and depleted by the constant churn of external engagement. Think of your mind as a pond. When you are constantly engaged reacting to messages, consuming news, debating opinions, it is like throwing endless handfuls of pebbles into the water. The surface becomes a chaotic mess of ripples and waves, making it impossible to see your own reflection or the depths below. Strategic withdrawal is the simple act of stopping. You stop throwing pebbles, you sit quietly on the bank and wait. Slowly, inevitably, the water stills, the sediment settles, the surface becomes a perfect mirror, and for the first time all day, you can see yourself clearly and perceive what lies beneath the surface turmoil. This is where perspective is regained. That problem that seemed insurmountable an hour ago now appears manageable from this new, calm vantage point. That inflammatory comment that made your blood boil is revealed for what it truly is: a mere pebble, insignificant once the ripples have faded. This practice is the ultimate application of the Stoic reserve clause. You engage with the world fully, but with a quiet understanding that you may need to periodically retreat to your inner citadel to remember why you are fighting and for what principles. A practical and powerful example of this is declaring a 24-hour moratorium on a specific source of noise. This isn't a vague intention to use social media less. It is a pre-committed, non-negotiable contract with yourself. From sunset tonight to sunset tomorrow, you will not open that particular app or website. You will not check the news headlines for one full cycle. You will not engage in that group text debate that consistently leaves you feeling agitated. The key is to announce this withdrawal to no one but yourself. This is not a performance, it is a private exercise in sovereignty. As you feel the habitual itch to scroll or check, you consciously override it. In that newly created space, you do not simply sit in emptiness. You fill it with a deliberate alternative that serves your clarity. Perhaps you take a long walk without your phone. You read a chapter of a book that challenges you to think deeply, or you simply sit with a notebook and untangle the thoughts that have been knotted up by all that input. You are not avoiding the world. You are recalibrating your instrument so you can engage with it more effectively and harmoniously when you return. Your challenge is to make this philosophy tangible. I want you to identify one single, recurring source of noise that consistently clouds your judgment or drains your emotional energy. It might be the political commentary section of your favorite news site. a particular social media platform that thrives on outrage, or even a habitual after-work conversation with a colleague that always devolves into complaining. Now, I want you to strategically withdraw from it. Plan a specific 24-hour period within the next 7 days where you will completely disengage from that one source. Mark it in your calendar. When the impulse to check it arises during that window, recognize it not as a desire but as a symptom of your conditioning. Use that moment of awareness to instead ask yourself a clarifying question. What truly important thought or feeling am I avoiding by seeking this distraction? This one day of chosen quiet is not an escape. It is a reconnaissance mission into your own mind, granting you the elevated perspective needed to advance your vision with unshakable clarity. You control your effort, not the outcome. This simple, liberating truth is the core of the 28th Quiet Life Shift, a fundamental reorientation of where you place your attention and find your satisfaction. The noisy world is obsessed with results, victories, rankings, metrics, and final scores. It screams at you to judge your worth by your wins and to see your losses as personal failures. Stoicism offers a radical alternative: to shift your entire focus from the unpredictable external outcome to the dependable internal process. Your job is not to guarantee a specific result, which is always subject to a million factors outside your command. Your job is to execute your part with excellence, integrity, and full commitment. The quality of your effort is your domain. The final outcome belongs to the universe. This philosophy is a direct application of the dichotomy of control we explored earlier, but here it becomes your daily operating system for ambition itself. The Stoics argued that the only true good is a virtuous character, and the only true bad is a vicious one. Therefore, an action is good and worthy if it is performed with the right intention and virtuous effort, regardless of whether it leads to a trophy or a standing ovation. A defeat faced with courage, honesty, and grace is a far greater victory for your character than a win achieved through deception, cowardice, or spite. Epictetus, who focused relentlessly on this distinction, provided the perfect mantra for this shift. He advised, "Make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens." He didn't say, "Hope the rest goes your way," or "Fight against the rest." He said to accept it, to take it as it is. This is the ultimate act of focusing on process. You pour every ounce of your being into the part you can influence, and then you release your grip on the rest with a calm and open hand. Your peace is no longer held hostage by a verdict you cannot control. To see the transformative power of this, let's contrast two artists preparing for a major gallery show. The first artist is entirely outcome-focused. Her every waking thought is consumed by the potential reviews, the sales figures, and the opinions of influential critics. She paints not from a place of creative expression, but from a place of desperate need for validation. Every brushstroke is laden with anxiety. A negative comment during the preparation sends her into a spiral of self-doubt, and the entire process is a miserable exercise in fear. Even if the show is a smashing success, her relief is temporary, immediately replaced by anxiety about topping it next time. Her sense of self-worth is on a roller coaster dictated by external applause. Now consider the second artist, who embodies the process-focused Stoic approach. Her goal is not a successful show. Her goal is to create the most honest, skillful, and personally meaningful work she is capable of producing. She focuses entirely on her process, showing up at the studio each day, honing her technique, studying her subjects with deep attention, and ensuring each piece aligns with her artistic vision. The potential outcome of the show exists in a separate mental box, acknowledged but not obsessed over. She finds deep satisfaction in the flow state of creation itself, in the mastery of her craft, in the simple act of bringing something into the world that didn't exist before. If the show is successful, she enjoys it as a pleasant external event. If it is not, her core satisfaction remains unshaken because it was never dependent on the result in the first place. Her joy was found in the doing. This week, your reflective task is to apply this liberating focus to one specific goal that has been causing you anxiety. Choose something where you've been overly attached to a specific result, perhaps a fitness target, a work project, or a desired outcome in a personal relationship. Now I want you to perform a conscious mental separation. On one side of a page, write down every single action that is within your control regarding this goal. If it's the work project, this list might include the hours of focused research you will dedicate, the quality of the drafts you will produce, the collaborative spirit you will bring to your team, and the thoroughness of your final check. On the other side of the page, write down all the desired outcomes that are ultimately outside your control. Whether your client loves it, whether it leads to a promotion, whether it is praised by senior leadership. Your assignment is to then take your eyes completely off the second list. For the next 7 days, your only measure of success is your faithful execution of the items on the first list. Did you give it your absolute best effort today? That is your victory. The final result is simply information that will arrive later, data to be accepted calmly and used to inform your next round of virtuous action. How steady is your inner weather from one moment to the next? Is it a calm, clear day that can be shattered by a single piece of bad news, or a sunny disposition that instantly clouds over with a critical comment? For many of us, our emotional state is like a tiny boat on a stormy sea, tossed violently by every wave of external circumstance. The Stoics proposed a radically different ideal: to become the calm, deep ocean itself, where waves may arise on the surface, but the depths remain undisturbed and powerful. They called this state apatheia, a concept often misunderstood as a cold, emotionless void. In truth, it was never about not feeling. It was about achieving freedom from the destructive passions, those overwhelming, irrational emotions that hijack our reason and dictate our actions against our own better judgment. It is the cultivated ability to experience feelings without being enslaved by them, to acknowledge the wave without becoming the wave. Marcus Aurelius, who faced immense political pressures and personal losses, constantly practiced this inner steadiness. He offered himself this gentle reminder in his private writings: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Notice he doesn't say, you have power to prevent outside events. He acknowledges that difficult, triggering things will happen. His focus is on the critical territory we actually command, our internal, reasoned response to those events. This is the heart of emotional equanimity. It's not a magical state where you never feel anger, sadness, or fear. It is the development of a quiet, observant space within you that can watch those feelings arise, name them, and then choose how, or even if, to act upon them. You are learning to differentiate between the raw, initial spark of emotion and the fuel of your judgment that you can choose to add to it, turning a spark into a raging fire. Consider a practical scenario where this shift becomes your greatest asset. You've just spent hours crafting a careful, important email to a colleague. You hit send, and moments later, you receive a terse, one-line reply that feels dismissive and critical. The immediate, automatic reaction is a hot surge of anger or a cold plunge of insecurity. The noisy, reactive mind instantly constructs a story. They're disrespecting my work. They've never valued my contribution. I need to fire back a reply to set them straight. This is the storm. Emotional equanimity is the practice of noticing the storm brewing without jumping into the boat. It's taking that one crucial breath and silently saying to yourself, there is anger. There is hurt pride. Just that act of naming the emotion creates a sliver of space between the feeling and you. From that space, you can engage your reason. You might ask, is there any other way to interpret this? Could they be rushed, stressed, or simply bad at email communication? What is the most constructive way to achieve my actual goal here, which is a good working relationship and a successful project? The feeling might still be present, but it is no longer in the driver's seat. You have reclaimed control. This week, your practice is to become a gentle scientist of your own emotional weather patterns. I invite you to choose just one common emotional reaction you experience, perhaps the flash of irritation in traffic, the pang of envy when a friend shares good news, or the anxiety before a meeting. Your only task is to notice it. When you feel that familiar surge, I want you to hit the gentlest of pause buttons. Don't try to suppress the feeling or judge yourself for having it. Simply observe it with detached curiosity, as if you were watching a cloud pass across the sky. Silently label it to yourself. There is irritation. This is anxiety. In that moment of naming and noticing, you are not your emotion. You are the vast, steady sky witnessing it. And in that simple, profound act of witnessing, you take the first step toward true emotional freedom, building an inner calm that no external storm can ever disrupt. Silence speaks where words fail, a truth the Stoics understood as the very foundation of meaningful communication. In a world that equates rapid speech with intelligence and constant commentary with engagement, the deliberate use of quiet stands as a radical act of wisdom. It is the ultimate filter for social noise, transforming conversation from a frantic exchange of monologues into a space for genuine connection and understanding. The Stoic virtue of measured speech wasn't about being timid or withholding. It was about recognizing that the most powerful statements are often those not made, and the most profound understanding arises not from what is said, but from the space between the words. This 30th and final shift invites you to reclaim that space, to integrate strategic silence as a tool for deeper thought, clearer expression, and more thoughtful interaction. Consider the profound difference between two types of speakers. The first fills every available second with sound, rushing to respond before the other person has even finished their thought. Their mind is a whirlwind of formulating a rebuttal, searching for a wittier remark, or crafting a story to top the one they're hearing. This communication is a performance, a subtle competition for airtime that generates immense heat but very little light. The listener feels rushed, unheard, and ultimately more distant. Now picture the Stoic communicator. They listen completely, their focus entirely on the other person. When the speaker finishes, this person does not immediately jump in. They allow a pause to hang in the air for 2 or 3 seconds, a silence that feels heavy with respect and consideration. In that quiet moment, 3 things happen simultaneously. First, the speaker feels the gift of being fully received, their words allowed to land and resonate rather than be batted back. Second, the listener's own response is not a reactive impulse but a considered, distilled thought, emerging from a place of clarity rather than haste. And third, the conversation itself deepens, moving past superficial chatter into the realm of genuine exchange. This pause is not empty, it is fertile ground. The Stoics championed this economy of language. Zeno of Citium, the founder of Stoicism, famously argued that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we might listen more and speak less. But this was more than a clever aphorism. It was a practical guide for living. Seneca, in his letters, constantly warned against the dangers of impulsive, unconsidered speech. He observed that while a word spoken in haste cannot be taken back, a moment of silence can never be misconstrued. He wrote, "It is more valuable to be silent than to speak if you cannot contribute something more valuable than silence." Imagine applying that filter to your own conversations today. Before speaking, you silently ask Seneca's question, "Is what I am about to say more valuable than the silence it will break?" This single practice would eliminate 90% of gossip, complaining, and reactive criticism, cutting through the noise to reveal only the most essential and meaningful communication. To make this shift tangible, let's apply it to a common high-stakes scenario: receiving criticism. The default, noisy reaction is to interrupt the critic mid-sentence with a defensive justification, a counter-accusation, or an explanation. This escalates tension and guarantees a breakdown in understanding. Now apply the Stoic pause. As the critical feedback comes your way, you consciously choose to do one thing: breathe and stay silent. You absorb the full comment without interjection, your face a mask of neutral attention. Once they have finished, you let the silence hold for a full 3 seconds. In that space, you process the emotional sting, allowing it to subside so your rational mind can engage. You separate the useful data from the unhelpful delivery. Then and only then do you respond. Your first words are not a defense but a reflection. "Thank you for that. What I'm hearing is that the timeline was unclear. Is that the main concern?" This response, born from silence, de-escalates the situation instantly and transforms a potential conflict into a collaborative problem-solving session. The silence acted as a buffer, protecting you from a reactive mistake and allowing for a virtuous response. Your final practice, the capstone to these 30 shifts, is this. In your very next significant conversation, whether it's with a partner, a colleague, or a friend, I want you to consciously insert one deliberate 3-second pause before you offer your response. Do not plan what you will say during the pause. Use those 3 seconds to truly hear the echo of their words and to feel the weight of the silence. Notice the slight discomfort it might create, and then notice the clarity that emerges on the other side of it. Observe how the quality of your contribution changes when it is offered from a place of quiet consideration rather than hurried reaction. This is not about winning the conversation. It is about mastering your participation in it. In that simple, powerful silence, you will find the unshakable vision you've been cultivating, a mind so clear and calm that it needs no noise to prove its worth. And so we arrive here at the end of our journey through these 30 quiet life shifts, not with a finish line, but with a new starting point. Each of these practices, from the morning silence ritual to the strategic use of thoughtful pauses, serves a single, unified purpose: to systematically dismantle the architecture of social noise and, stone by stone, build in its place an unshakable vision for your life. They are not a checklist to be completed, but a toolkit to be visited again and again, a collection of mental and emotional exercises designed to strengthen your inner sovereignty, anchor you in the present moment, forge resilience in the face of adversity, and align your every action with the timeless compass of virtue. This is the essence of the Stoic art of living, turning down the deafening volume of the world's demands so you can finally hear the quiet, confident voice of your own purpose. What we have explored together is a map back to yourself. It is a reclaiming of the territory of your own mind from the endless chatter of comparison, the frantic pressure of immediacy, and the draining anxiety of trying to control the uncontrollable. Every shift, whether it's the premeditation of challenges or the curation of your digital inputs, is a practical step toward that ultimate freedom, the freedom that Epictetus so powerfully defined when he said, "No person is free who is not master of themselves." This is the freedom that cannot be granted by any external circumstance, and that no external circumstance can ever take away. It is found in the disciplined choice of your response, in the quiet space between a trigger and your action, and in the deep, abiding knowledge that your worth is determined not by your possessions or your reputation, but by the quality of your character and the integrity of your effort. The path forward from here is not about attempting a complete overhaul overnight. Such an approach is itself a form of noise, a frantic grasping that leads only to burnout. The most stoic way to begin is also the simplest. Start small. Look back over these 30 shifts and allow one to resonate with you. Not the one you think you should choose, but the one that quietly, persistently calls to you. Perhaps it's the practice of a digital sunset to reclaim your evenings, or the commitment to a single block of deep work to honor your most important goals. Maybe it's the courageous act of defining your core virtues to serve as an unwavering compass. Choose just one, commit to it for the next week. Practice it not as a chore, but as an experiment in reclaiming your attention and your peace. Observe the subtle ways it changes the texture of your days and the clarity of your thinking. Master that one shift, and you will have built a foundation of discipline and self-trust that makes adopting the next one not a struggle, but a natural progression. As you step away from this conversation and back into the flow of your life, I want to leave you with a single, reflective question. Which of these 30 shifts landed with the most weight in your own experience? Was it the idea of building your inner citadel, the practice of loving your fate, or perhaps the power of focused listening? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insight might be the very thing that helps another person on their own path from noise to vision. This is how we build a community not of perfect Stoics, but of earnest practitioners, each of us learning from the other, supporting one another in the most important work there is, the work of crafting a life of purpose on our own terms. The quiet life is not an escape from the world. It is the way to engage with it more powerfully, more lovingly, and more effectively than you ever thought possible. Your unshakable vision is waiting,